Everyone discussed softly, looking at Fong and Bai with all kinds of gazes. Some were curious, some were judging, some were solemn, some were frivolous. There were also many people who did not look at them, but looked at another person. This person was standing among the rank 4 Gu masters. Dressed in tight clothes, her beautiful eyes were like stars, and her brows were tightly furrowed. It was Tai Ruanan. Tai Ruanan was a rank 4 Gu master. She naturally had to follow this wave of rank 4 Gu masters and enter the inheritance. Although Tai Mu Bai was the number 1 person on San Cha Mountain, he still had to follow the rules and set an example. Otherwise, it would be difficult to command the Gu masters on San Cha Mountain. This was the code of conduct of a righteous path leader. Fong Zheng, it's you. Tai Ruanan walked out of the crowd, closely staring at Fong Yuan with an agitated expression. Seeing Fong Yuan, this great enemy whose hands were stained with the blood of Tai clansmen, the young girl's heart was filled with hatred and anger, wishing she could immediately kill him. Her fists fiercely clenched, then slowly loosened. Loosened and tightened, tightened and loosened again. Such repeated small movements showed the struggle in her heart. Finally, Tai Ruanan loosened her fists and fiercely breathed out a mouthful of turbid air, her eyes regaining clarity. Little Beast King, don't worry, old clan leader will attack you. Your life is mine. Sooner or later, I will kill you as a sacrifice to the souls of my Tai clansmen. Just you wait. Saying so, the young girl turned around and left, stepping into the light pillar and disappearing. Is Tai Ruanan afraid? She actually left without fighting. It seems Little Beast King's might is still there, causing this Tai clan young master to not dare to fight. I feel this girl is very smart. The 3 kings' inheritance is right in front of us. This is a rare opportunity, she should quickly grab it. What is the benefit of fighting and killing? Fong Yuan, however, frowned slightly. Tai Ruanan's performance had surprised him. Being able to control her anger, it was truly rare. Many famous people might not be able to do this. Tai Ruanan. I cannot let you grow any further. It was rare for Fong Yuan to feel threatened by someone of the same generation. Tai Mu Bai did not purposely conceal the fact that he was teaching Tai Ruanan, it was already widely known. Fong Yuan was naturally aware of this. Tai Ruanan had talent, she had talent, and her temperament was even more firm. Adding on the clan's nurturing, she was simply a swallow that soared to the sky. One day she would fly to the clouds, becoming a phoenix or a green bird. Restraining the killing intent in his heart, Fong Yuan walked towards the inheritance. Most of the rank 4 Gu masters consciously gave way. Wait! Suddenly, a righteous Gu master walked forward and blocked Fong and Bai. This righteous Gu master wore a snow-white robe, his sleeves were wide and fluttering in the wind, his face was also very handsome. It was no one else. It was the young patriarch of the Yun family, Yun Luo Tian. Little Beast King, I heard that you killed Tai Ba Xiu. Yun Luo Tian stood in front of Fong Yuan and swept a glance at Fong Yuan before sizing up Bai Ningbing. Do you know? He pointed at Fong Yuan, saying arrogantly, you won with an unfair advantage, using a flying Gu to kill a righteous path member, but you found a loophole. The atmosphere at the scene became very heavy. Yun Luotian's words were very blunt. Furthermore, Fong Yuan was an arrogant person. If things continued like this, it was obvious that a war would break out. Many Gu masters retreated slightly, distancing themselves from these 2 people. Under everyone's gazes, Fong Yuan's gaze was eerie. Looking at Yun Luo Tian, he nodded and suddenly smiled. I indeed found a loophole and killed Tai Ba Xiu, sorry about that. Yun Luo Tian was stunned, he did not expect this Little Beast King to answer like this. Why was his behavior different from the information? These years of closed cultivation. He had been cultivating flying techniques. His flying ability was not inferior to the famous flying experts of Southern Border. Right now, he wanted to fight with Fong Yuan to increase his reputation. But Fong Yuan was so polite, he could not continue to make things difficult for him. Demonic path members could be extremely vicious. He was a righteous path member, and was also the young patriarch of Yun clan. His every action had to be paid attention to. After all, he represented the image of Yun clan. Yun Luo Tian was slightly dazed. But soon after, he calmed his mind. We let young Master Tai Ruanan leave first because we admire old Patriarch Tai Mu Bai's reputation. Since you know you found a loophole, why don't you leave first? There are still many heroes here, it's not your turn yet. Yun Luo Tian waved his sleeves at Fang Yuan, speaking in a plain tone. Although he was secretly flattering the people around him, the atmosphere became even more tense. Everyone had a feeling that a storm was brewing. Just as everyone was on guard, Fang Yuan took a step back with a smile. Sir is right, I was rude. You guys go first. Yun Luo Tian laughed, waving his sleeves and turning around with a leisurely attitude. After dozens of steps, he stepped into the light pillar. Although he did not fight with Fang Yuan, he felt his gains were greater. Not long later, there would be rumors of him challenging Little Beast King, scaring this rising star of the demonic path into retreating. At that time, his reputation would soar, and Yun clan's reputation in the righteous path would also rise. After Yun Luo Tian entered the inheritance, Fang Yuan and Bai Ningbing chose King Bao's inheritance. Seeing the two disappear, the remaining rank 4 Gu masters started to whisper to each other. Is this still Little Beast King? He has become so gentle and refined. Did he take the wrong medicine, or did I see wrongly? This world is changing too quickly. Little Beast King is terrified, what a coward. If it were me, I would have already rolled up my sleeves and fought. Sigh, the opponent is Yun Luo Tian after all. Although Yun clan cannot compare to super clans, it is still a first-rate clan. After a moment of dizziness, after calming down, Fang Yuan sized up his surroundings. A gray-white sky and light red land stretched to the limits of his vision. On the land, there were pieces of volcanic rocks, emitting steam or gray smoke. Another heavenly demon has descended. Comrades, quickly gather together, as long as we are united, we can defeat the Demon King. Quick, our Red Egg village can only rely on ourselves to protect it. Suddenly, the lids of the volcanic rocks were opened, and small people walked out of them. These small people were only the size of babies, they were pink and tender, looking very cute. The most eye-catching thing was, in the center of each of their chests, there was a red cute round egg. These were eggmen. Like hairy men, they were variant humans. Fang Yuan took one look and knew that these were red egg men among eggmen. The eggs on the bodies of red egg men were all red. They built houses out of large volcanic rocks and lived in them. Right now, Fang Yuan could only use one exploding egg goo. And King Bao Inheritance's intention was to let Fang Yuan use exploding egg goo to eliminate these red egg men. That way, he would be able to enter the next round. But facing the attacking red egg men, Fang Yuan did not move. He allowed the attacks to land on him. These attacks accumulated and soon, Fang Yuan was heavily injured. Fang Yuan could not breathe properly, his body was bathed in blood, the intense aura of death had already enveloped him. At this moment, even if he used exploding egg goo, it would not change the situation. Putting himself in a desperate situation, Fang Yuan's lips curled into a smile. This moment has finally arrived. But to Fang Yuan, it was a different situation. Firstly, he was a rank 6 Gu immortal in his previous life, using Spring-Autumn Cicada to rebirth. He also successfully refined Spring-Autumn Cicada, and had precious experience in refining immortal Gu. Secondly, ever since Three Kings' inheritance opened, he had been making arrangements. He challenged Strength Path Gu masters everywhere, and eliminated competitors. Shui Sanxi, Century Boy and others were all chosen by the land spirit in his previous life. But now, they all died in Fang Yuan's hands. Finally, he had the land spirit's help. In his previous life, when the land spirit met the first lucky child, it was already very weak. Towards the end, it was extremely weak, and was actually killed by a group of mortals. But now was different. Fang Yuan sought death, and came early. He definitely received great help from the land spirit. Back then, that Gu Immortal had already made ample preparations to refine the Gu. With this foundation, I have at least 50% confidence in refining the Gu. Chapter 383. Soon, Fang Yuan calmed down. The second aperture Gu was only a hope. To realize it, it required planning and hard work. Refining second aperture Gu, regardless of success or failure, will consume most of the immortal essence. Without celestial core power, I won't be able to defend against the upcoming earthly calamities and heavenly tribulations. In other words, even if I become the blessed land's master, this blessed land can no longer be saved. I have to give it up. So, the second aperture Gu is my greatest gain from this trip. However, the entire matter was not as simple as it seemed. Right now, Fang Yuan was facing a very complicated situation. When refining second aperture Gu, the remaining immortal essence would rapidly decrease, the blessed land would weaken greatly, and the land spirit's help would also decrease. At the same time, he had to consider the Gu masters in the blessed land. If they found this hall, they would attack together like in his previous life and destroy the Gu refinement operation. Fang Yuan's eyes shone brightly, and after thinking for a while, he took the initiative to request, "Land Spirit, tell me the second aperture Gu's refinement recipe." The Earth Spirit, Ba Gue, nodded slowly and said in a deep voice, "Then listen carefully. The following is the complete content of the secret recipe. Rotten earth blood powder, earth saffron. Jade bones into petals, ice muscles into stems, and the heart of the flower was a golden relic. The dazzling sparks converged into a plain of ice and snow. Below it was the yang cloud that raised the fire like a pill. Above it was the yin cloud that dropped the sand like gold. In the middle of the sky, the shadows of beasts were added until lightning and thunder struck. The power of the beasts was born in the placenta, and it could gather people's acupoints. Wild grass was flourishing, and blood chi was like the sea. 300 years as spring, 500 years as autumn. His divine armament was limitless, and he roamed the wilderness. The third watch, the third watch, the third watch, the ninth watch. 9 was the extreme. Mission accomplished. The secret recipe was rich in content and had close to 10,000 words. The more Fang Yuan listened, the more solemn his expression became. Refining this second aperture Gu required over 1,000 steps. The early stage involved over 100 kinds of materials, the middle stage used large amounts of rank 4 and rank 5 Gu worms. It was even more difficult, he actually needed to use another rank 6 immortal Gu. Not good, the difficulty of refining second aperture Gu is too high. It's much higher than I estimated. The information from my previous life only talked about the first half of the secret recipe, and it was mixed with a lot of misunderstandings from the people involved. Fang Yuan's heart sank, he originally had 50% confidence. After listening to the secret recipe, only about 30% remained. You don't have to worry too much. In this hall, there are already large amounts of materials and Gu worms specially prepared for refining the second aperture Gu. As the land spirit spoke, the entire hall was suffused with a dark green light. Amidst the brilliant radiance, the engravings on the surface of the hall protruded out of the bricks and materialized. This change. This surprised Fang Yuan. This is clearly a storage method. This is the first time I've seen something like this. Sigh. Many of the ancient methods have been destroyed in the river of light and yin. There were all kinds of materials, dazzling him. There were at least 5,000 Gu worms, ranging from rank 1 to rank 5. Among them, there were more than 600 rank 4 Gu and more than 80 rank 5 Gu. Rank 5 Gu worms were extremely rare in the outside world, but in this hall, there were nearly 100 of them. Seeing that he was about to fail, Fang Yuan suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Wait, don't tell me, he started to control the 4 beast phantoms. White elephant phantom, simple and honest. Black python phantom, cold in entanglement. Stone tortoise phantom, thick like a mountain. Steed phantom, galloping like flying. These 4 beast phantoms were just tangling with each other before. Now, under Fang Yuan's control, they displayed their charm and true meaning. Rumble. A thunderous explosion occurred, and a change occurred. The yin and yang clouds moved, the yin cloud sank and the yang cloud rose, the two joined into one. The clouds surged and mixed endlessly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled continuously. So it was like this. No wonder it requires a strength path, Gu Master. Just having the beast phantoms is not enough. The Gu Master needs to experience the true meaning of their respective beast phantoms before they can start fusing. Feng Yuan heaved a sigh of relief, understanding inwardly. Crack crack, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The sounds were like war drums, becoming more and more concentrated. Finally, they reached their limit and connected into one. Bam bam bam, amidst the continuous explosions, the clouds completely fused into one, and suddenly exploded. A strong gust of wind blew, and the clouds and smoke dispersed. Only one Gu was left in the air. This Gu was rank 5 and was shaped like a disc. Its surface was rough like the embryo of weeds. Disc Zhong inside, there was a fierce beast with a horse head, elephant tusks, tortoise body and snake tail. This is the beast strength placenta Gu. Feng Yuan's mind relaxed when he saw this Gu, and immediately fell asleep. He had spent 5 days and 5 nights on this Gu refinement. During this period, he did not sleep or rest, multitasking, his mind was exhausted to the extreme. This sleep lasted for an entire day and night. Feng Yuan woke up. He rubbed the beast strength placenta Gu, recalling the recipe. Below it is the yang cloud that raises fire like a pill, above it is the yin cloud that drops sand like gold, adding beast phantoms in the middle until lightning flashes and the beast strength placenta is born, gathering the apertures. Next is gathering the apertures. Thinking of this, he stood up and said to the land spirit, Ba Gue, it is time. Ba Gue was straightforward, all right, I can teleport you to any place in the blessed land. Saying so, a large map appeared in front of Feng Yuan's eyes, along with all kinds of images, showing the blessed land scenery. Gu masters, hairy men, dogs and beasts, everything was clear. This is the place. Feng Yuan searched and pointed at a place. At the next moment, Feng Yuan disappeared and appeared in front of Tai Mu Bai. It's you. Tai Mu Bai was searching for the inheritance. Seeing Feng Yuan suddenly appear, he was slightly shocked. But he quickly calmed down and was about to say something, but Feng Yuan was in a rush. He waved his hand and luckily summoned a rock crocodile phantom. Slap! Tai Mu Bai's head exploded like a watermelon after being whipped by the rock crocodile's tail. He was dead. Refining immortal Gu requires at least 10 portions of primeval essence. But to support the 3 kings' inheritance, you only need 2 portions. When you kill enough, I will close the entire blessed land. No, I am not wrong. Feng Yuan shook his head. Refining the second aperture Gu, although it consumes immortal essence, we can use Yuan stone to replace some of the steps. This way, we can save 2 portions of immortal essence. Moreover, you cannot close the inheritance now, you have to keep the entrance open. Why? Land Spirit asked. Feng Yuan answered, because once you close the inheritance, the matter of me killing rank 5 Gu masters will be exposed. At that time, such a change will attract even stronger enemies. Even if you close the blessed land, you cannot expel the Gu masters left in the inheritance. Because the 3 kings are modifying the blessed land, you will need to expend a lot of immortal essence to expel them. Immortal essence is already insufficient, every portion is important, it is a necessity for the Gu refinement. At the later stages of the Gu refinement, the immortal essence will dwindle, the blessed land will be on the verge of collapsing and full of loopholes. It is useless to close the blessed land, your strength will also weaken, the hall will definitely be discovered. At that time, we will be besieged by Gu masters, the Gu refinement is likely to fail. After a moment of silence, the land spirit transmitted, you are right. However, your method also has its drawbacks and flaws. If you use Yuan stone to replace immortal essence, you will need at least 30 million Yuan stone. Do you have so many Yuan stone on you? Feng Yuan laughed loudly. I only have 1 million Yuan stone on me, of course it is not enough. But don't worry, there are other Goo Masters. Especially rank 4 and 5 Goo Masters, they are definitely rich. After killing them, would we still need to worry about Yuan Stone? At the same time, in the later stages of the Goo refinement, the Blessed Land would be full of loopholes, and it would be connected to the outside world, and could be attacked by many Goo Masters. At that time, the land spirit would be extremely weak, and could not be relied on, and that would be the most dangerous moment for Feng Yuan. The refinement of the second aperture Goo gets more difficult as it goes on. Especially that last step, I need to use divine travel Goo, and I need to concentrate with all my concentration, or my own safety will be in great danger. The lesson of Wu Gui's blood was just now, and Feng Yuan had to be on guard. But his situation was different from Wu Gui's. I still have a chess piece, and that is by Ning Bing. She has used the poison vow Goo, and can be trusted. It seems that at the final moment, I still need to rely on her to protect me. Thinking so, Feng Yuan suddenly disappeared, and appeared in front of Bai Ningbing. Feng Yuan was no exception. He knew that Wu Clan had a rank 6 immortal Goo called 100 Without Loss Goo. It had a mystical power and specialized in retrieving precious Goo worms. Although this blessed land could suppress all transformations of rank 1 to 5 Goo worms, it could not restrict immortal Goo. In fact, no blessed land could restrict the power of immortal Goo. Feng Yuan obtained the remaining rank 4 Goo. It was not a small gain. Next, he took out Beast Strength Placenta Goo and devoured Wu Lan Shan's aperture. This was the 4th rank 5 Goo Master's aperture. The Beast Strength Placenta Goo was nourished. It was like an exquisite porcelain, giving off a smooth and delicate feeling. Feng Yuan used his mind to sense it and found that his aptitude had risen to 75%. The higher the aptitude, the harder it was to raise it. Back then, when he devoured Tai Mu Bai's aperture, his aptitude rose by 40%. But later, when Feng Yuan devoured Wu Gui, Ku Mo and Wu Lan Shan's apertures, it only rose by 35%. Of course, this is related to the Goo Master's foundation. There are 5 rank 5 Goo Masters on San Cha Mountain. But only Tai Mu Bai, Ku Mo and Wu Gui are rank 5 peak stage. Among them, Tai Mu Bai has Tai Clan's abundant resources. His foundation is the deepest. The others, Wu Lan Shan and Wang Xiao, are rank 5 upper stage. Chou Jiu is only rank 5 initial stage. After killing these people, my aptitude might not rise by another 10%. But don't worry, there are many Goo Masters. Even Yihua and Kong Ri Tian will die. The corpse hound's body is purple, its skin is slightly rotten, its back is hunched and its fangs are protruding. If you use the Yin dog to restrain it, you will definitely succeed. Choose the left path. The reward for that round is 3 tasks at once Goo. It will be extremely helpful to you. Next, you will encounter a heavy Tai Dog King. It is heavily injured, but it is even more ferocious. No matter how many dogs you sacrifice, you must capture it alive and use it for your own use. This Dog King is the only heavy Tai Dog King in the first 20 rounds. At the 22nd round, there will be a large number of wandering heavy Tai dogs. You can use it to subdue them without spending a single soldier. Every time Bai Ning Bing passed a stage, there would be a voice beside her, guiding her on the right path. This voice naturally belonged to the land spirit. Immortal essence was scarce. After the land spirit moved Bai Ning Bing to King Quan inheritance, it was not willing to waste immortal essence on her. Bai Ning Bing could only pass 1 round at a time. However, although the land spirit's control over the blessed land had fallen to rock bottom, it could clearly see through the arrangements of 3 kings' inheritance. These words of guidance to Bai Ning Bing almost did not consume any immortal essence, but to Bai Ning Bing, it was a huge help. It was like a bright lamp, illuminating the dark path in front of Bai Ning Bing. In every round, Bai Ning Bing made the best choice, and her strength continued to expand like a rolling snowball. Next, you will encounter a Goo Master as your enemy. But don't worry, he has just experienced a huge battle. There are not many dogs left. You can eliminate him effortlessly. At that time, I will imprison him, and after you kill him, take away his Goo worms. It will greatly strengthen your Goo worms. The land spirit guided. Bai Ningbing nodded, slowly walking out of the fog. It's you. Her enemy saw her and was somewhat shocked. Bai Ningbing was also stunned. This was none other than the Yun Clan young clan leader who had made things difficult for her and Fong Yuan when they first entered the inheritance, Yun Luo Tian. Yun Luo Tian arrogantly snorted, "You are Bai Ningbing, right? You are unlucky to have met me, you have less than half of my dogs." Halfway through his words, he paused. His eyes were wide open, and a strange caw-caw sound came from his throat, like a rooster being strangled. From the fog behind Bai Ningbing, a large number of dogs walked out one after another. Chapter 387. Impossible. How can you have so many dog beasts? Yun Luo Tian shouted, pointing at Bai Ningbing as his body trembled, his expression as if he had seen a ghost. Bai Ningbing had so many dog beasts around her, it was beyond Yun Luo Tian's imagination. How many rounds are there now? Even a rank 5 Gu master cannot have such a huge group. Yun Luo Tian shouted, venting his fear. You must have found some loophole and cheated. You cheated, you despicable and shameless person. Yun Luo Tian lost his composure, he no longer had the demeanor of a young tribe leader. Bai Ningbing sighed, Yun Luo Tian was right, he hit the nail on the head. That's right, she cheated. It was the blessed land's land spirit who helped her. Under the land spirit's guidance, she explored King Quan inheritance easily, it was like she was taking a stroll in the wild, it was extremely smooth. It was a stark contrast to the difficulty she had to face when exploring King Quan inheritance alone. The feeling of cheating is truly amazing. If this is called despicable and shameless, then I am willing to be even more despicable and shameless, hee hee hee. Bai Ningbing sighed in her heart as she waved her hand. Woof woof woof, countless hounds, upon receiving her order, began to move like a tide. In Yun Luo Tian's vision, he saw the dog beasts pouncing towards him with an imposing aura. He gritted his teeth, Bai Ningbing, don't be smug. Once I get out, I will expose you to the public. You know such a huge secret, everyone will be interested. Especially those rank 5 Gu masters. Ha ha ha, you are finished. Saying so, he took out the token and used it. But the token did not move. Yun Luo Tian was stunned for a moment before continuing to use it. What is going on? Why is it not working? I clearly used it the last time. I could have been transported out immediately. His gaze flickered as a bad feeling surged in his heart, he was bewildered and uncertain. He took out another brand new token. He was Yun tribe's young leader, he had 2 life-saving tokens. But this time, there was still no movement. The token had completely lost its effect. Yun Luotian's eyes widened as he stared at the token in his hand, beads of sweat dripping down his forehead. Bai Ningbing's army of hounds had already surrounded him and started massacring his hounds. How could this be? Hurry up and teleport me out. Yun Luotian's breathing quickened. He frantically used the token, but to no avail. Ah! He screamed, his handsome face twisted in fear. His hair was disheveled and his eyes were bloodshot. He looked like an enraged bull. It's you. It was you, wasn't it? It must be you. You can actually nullify the command medallion. Ha, good technique. However, you have to consider this carefully. I am the young master of the Yun family. If you kill me, you'll be offending the Yun family. The entire Yun family won't let you off. Yun Luo Tian reacted and shouted at Bai Ningbing. His pride as the young master of the Yun family supported him. This caused him to not kneel and beg for mercy. Instead, his tone became even more unyielding. But this kind of stubbornness, to Bai Ningbing, was useless. I'm not even afraid of the Tai clan. Why should I be afraid of your insignificant Yun family? What a joke. Bai Ningbing sneered. At this moment, Yun Luo Tian was all alone. The dog beasts in his hands were not worth mentioning, they had all been slaughtered. Bai Ningbing's heart moved. The dog beast closest to him let out a howl. It pounced on Yun Luo Tian. Yun Luo Tian struggled with all his might, but his strength could not compare to the strong dog beast. His throat was bitten by the dog beast, large amounts of blood spurted out from the wound. The rest of the dog beasts were squatting on the ground, watching. I curse you. I curse you to die a horrible death. Yun Luo Tian cursed before his death, his tone filled with hatred and anger. Bai Ningbing shook her head in disdain, walking forward and keeping all of Yun Luo Tian's goo worms. This Yun Luo Tian walked cloud path, all of his rank 4 goo worms were of high quality. And the enslavement path goo he obtained from the King Quan inheritance greatly strengthened Bai Ningbing's goo worms. Meanwhile, Yun Luo Tian's corpse was teleported to Fong Yuan by the land spirit. Fong Yuan was stepping on Wang Xiao, interrogating him for information on Wu Mountain. Wang Xiao was the lord of Wu Mountain, a rank 5 upper stage goo master, a true local tyrant. He was also an expert who had been famous for a long time. If this was in the outside world, even 80 Fong Yuan would not be Wang Xiao's match. But here, Fong Yuan defeated him easily, the whole process was as easy as flipping his hand. Wang Xiao was extremely furious, he was being stepped on by Fong Yuan, his face was in contact with the soil. For a grand rank 5 goo master, the lord of Wu Mountain, this was a huge humiliation. You want to know the way to Wu Mountain? Ha, don't be delusional. If you want to kill me, then kill me. After you kill me, you will never know the correct path again. Wang Xiao laughed coldly as he struggled, resisting with all his might. But Fong Yuan could use strength path goo worms, Wang Xiao could not match him in terms of strength. After struggling for a while, he was panting from exhaustion, while Fong Yuan's foot on his face was still as steady as a rock. Among the 100,000 great mountains of the southern border, Mount Wu was one of the most famous mountains. This mountain was illusory, hidden in fog. In the fog, there were many small paths. But there is only one right path. Wang Xiao knew this path. He would enter Mount Wu and take all the resources of Mount Wu for his own use. Famous mountains like Qingmao Mountain and Wu Mountain had at least 3 to 4 spirit springs. Other than that, there were large numbers of wild beasts and wild goo. All kinds of resources were enough to support 3 to 4 mid-sized clans. But in Wu Mountain, all the resources were monopolized by Wang Xiao. Wu Mountain is a naturally dangerous place, it is easy to defend, no matter how many righteous path goo masters there are, they cannot attack it. Wang Xiao used this place to be free and unfettered, becoming a tyrant. If I can obtain it, I can use it as a base, and I will not have to worry about resources after rank 5. Fong Yuan thought. Wu Mountain was Wang Xiao's fortuitous encounter, Fong Yuan coveted it very much. But Wang Xiao did not speak, he knew that once he spoke, he would die without a doubt. Not speaking would give him a chance of survival. Bam! Right at this time, with a soft sound, Yun Luo Tian's corpse was transported over by the land spirit. Fong Yuan kicked Wang Xiao away and walked to the corpse, taking out the beast strength placenta goo and devouring the aperture. It's him. That Yun clan's young master. Not good, the immortal essence expenditure is extremely high, it is slightly higher than expected. This blessed land is too old, it originated from the olden antiquity era, it is already a miracle that it can survive until now. With a wave of his arm, countless demonic goo masters gathered. Under his treatment, the demonic faction's casualties decreased sharply and their morale rose, giving the righteous faction a huge headache. Only when Shang Yan Fei invited Dr. Su Shou from Shang Clan City and cooperated with divine Dr. Xing Shou could they suppress Chou Jiu's limelight. The Battle of Yitian Mountain. Let the world know of Chou Jiu's power. Killer Ghost Doctor was also publicly recognized as the head of the 4 great doctors. After Yitian Mountain was conquered by the righteous faction, Chou Jiu was captured, and Wu clan leader felt pity for his talent. He wanted to recruit him. But Chou Jiu refused, cursing Shang Yan Fei and Dr. Su Shou, exposing an old grudge, and was finally killed by the furious Shang Yan Fei. But rank 5 goo masters were all geniuses, they could not be underestimated. These Gu masters were able to stand out from the masses. In such a cruel environment, the survival of the fittest, ascending to the peak of the mortal world, they were all heroes. Thinking of a person like Cho Jiu attacking at the final juncture of the Gu refinement, Fang Yuan could not eat or sleep in peace. Although my cultivation has risen to rank 4 upper stage, and my cultivation speed is astonishing. But on such a huge stage, I am still too weak. I cannot compare to these rank 5 Gu masters. If I had my rank 6 cultivation, no matter how many rank 5 Gu masters there are, I would kill them all like slaughtering pigs and dogs. Fang Yuan sighed inwardly. You still want to kill? Impossible, I won't allow it. Immortal essence cannot be wasted here, I need to save most of it for the Gu refinement. The land spirit heard Fang Yuan's request, but firmly rejected. Demonic Gu masters are like this, they like to take risks. Sigh, young man, don't be too radical. In this world, why is the righteous path prosperous, always suppressing the demonic path? That is because the demonic path is too radical and greedy, putting themselves in a desperate situation. But the righteous path seeks stability, fighting steadily and not moving. Ba Gui, you are wrong. It is not easy for the demonic path to survive, if they are not radical, if they do not use every opportunity to grab the greatest benefits, if they do not take risks. How can they cultivate, how can they compete with the righteous path? The greed, selfishness, radicalism and risk-taking of risks of the demonic path are the survival rules of the demonic path. As long as the benefits are huge, so what if they walk on a tightrope? One wrong step and the whole game will be lost, turning the impossible into the possible. This is the brilliance of the demonic path. The life of the demonic path is like wine, it has a strong fragrance. Fang Yuan loudly retorted. The land spirit heard such words and sighed, young man, your demonic nature is too deep, if you do not repent now, you will definitely walk towards destruction. You know the location of the Door of Life and Death? The Door of Life and Death is a top-secret forbidden land that is not inferior to the River of Time. The space is boundless and it radiates to the north, south, east and west regions. Legends say that there are many unique natural Gu worms inside, like Life Gu, Death Gu and so on. Cho Jiu nodded, I know the location of the Door of Life and Death. Not only that, I had once explored it several times, capturing the Life Gu and Death Gu inside, finally refining the Life Gu and Life Gu. I placed this Gu in the Door of Life and Death, and every time someone dies because of me, it will absorb the death energy and turn it into life force. It is because of this life force that my healing methods are so outstanding. This is the secret behind why I became one of the 4 great doctors of Southern Border. Killer Ghost Doctor revealed his secret to increase his persuasiveness. Oh? So that's it. This was the first time Fang Yuan had heard of such a secret. Although he had his previous life's memories, he was not omniscient. In that case, tell me, maybe I can spare your life. Fang Yuan promised. Cho Jiu shook his head, the secret of the Door of Life and Death is too important. Back then, I swore in front of the Si Vao Gu that I could not reveal it to outsiders. Once I say it, I will turn into ashes and die. However, if you join the Shadow Sect, you will be one of us, and I can tell you. Si Vao Gu? Shadow Sect? Fang Yuan frowned. Si Vao Gu was a rank 6 immortal Gu, it was very famous in the olden antiquity era, on par with the Mountain Pledge Gu. Mountain Pledge Gu and Si Vao Gu had similar effects to the Poison Vao Gu, but the Poison Vao Gu was a consumable, while these 2 immortal Gu could be used repeatedly. Si Vao Gu, Fang Yuan had heard of it and had some understanding. But Shadow Sect was unfamiliar to Fang Yuan. From the name, it sounded like a Gu cultivation sect. This meant that Cho Jiu, who was always alone, had a hidden force behind him. Fang Yuan felt some fear, the situation was out of his expectations. It was not difficult for Fang Yuan to kill Cho Jiu now, but he knew nothing about the Shadow Sect, this made him feel a sense of insecurity. That's right, my sect is the Shadow Sect. The founder of the Shadow Sect was a rank 8 Gu immortal of the immemorial era, He was the one who found the door of life and death and moved it into the blessed land. Since then, many Gu immortals have appeared in the Shadow Sect. If you join the Shadow Sect, there will be countless benefits. Next, Chojiu talked about a whole bunch of benefits. His tongue was like a glib one, it was like a deluge of heavenly flowers. Fong Yuan's expression struggled for a while, but he suddenly made up his mind. Chojiu, you have a good plan. As long as I join the Shadow Sect, not only will your life not be in danger, I will even recognize you as my senior brother. Chapter 390. Oh? What method? Fong Yuan raised his eyebrows. This started a long time ago. Chojiu heaved a long sigh. His face was filled with memories, hatred, grief, love and other complicated emotions. I don't have the time to listen to your long story, Fong Yuan interrupted him heartlessly. Chojiu choked and said, then I'll make it short. My surname is Zheng and my nickname is Anyo. I was a mountain farmer who was picking herbs. One day, I fell off a cliff and it was a blessing in disguise. I came to the blessed land of the Shadow Sect. Through the land spirit's guidance and test, I was lucky enough to become a disciple of the Shadow Sect. There were only 2 people left in the Shadow Sect. Other than me, there was also a senior sister. Senior sister's surname is Chinjiu and she was as beautiful as a fairy. She was raised by the land spirit since young and had never left the blessed land. She was even more innocent. I was born ugly and was ostracized and ridiculed since young. But senior sister was always kind and gentle to me. We interacted day and night and gradually developed feelings for each other. We swore an oath in front of the blessed land sea to protect each other and never abandon each other. We cultivated together and entered the door of life and death to capture life Gu and death Gu together. That was the happiest time of my life. I thought I could live like this until I grew old. Until an earthly calamity happened. The land spirit was injured and went into hibernation. There was a hole in the blessed land and a thief snuck in. This thief was heavily injured at that time. If I had known what would happen next, I would have tortured him to death at that time. But I didn't do that and woke him up. He said his surname was Shang and he had blood-red hair. He was very eloquent and he used flowery words to deceive senior sister while he was recuperating. He was indeed slightly better looking than me. He used his pretty face to gain senior sister's favor. Senior sister was innocent and ignorant. The more she talked to him, the happier she was. In the end, she took the initiative to take care of him. We quarreled many times because of this. After that thief recovered, I wanted to chase him out and continue living like a celestial couple with senior sister. But who would have thought that senior sister would have a change of heart? She went against the oath we swore, injured me, and defected with that thief. I hate it. She hated herself for being soft-hearted and causing a disaster. She hated her Shiji Chinjiu for falling in love with someone else, and she hated that despicable and shameless scoundrel for snatching her love away. After recovering from my injuries, I left the blessed land and roamed the southern border to find the whereabouts of this adulterous couple. But who would have thought that this scoundrel would have such a high position and become Shang clan leader? Saying so, Chojiu paused and looked at Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan was expressionless. He had the memories of his previous life and knew many secrets. Halfway through, she knew who Chojiu was talking about. Chojiu saw that Fong Yuan was unmoved and laughed bitterly. It seems like you have already guessed their identities. Indeed, that scoundrel was the current Shang clan leader Shang Yanfei. My senior sister Chinjiu is the current Dr. Su Shou. Shang clan is a super clan, while I am alone. These few years, I have been roaming the southern border. His painstaking planning was to deal with this adulterous couple. It was a pity. What a pity, I will die here today, I will not be able to fulfill this wish. He. Fong Yuan listened in silence and suddenly laughed. He looked down at Chojiu who was sitting on the ground, his eyes shining brightly. Killer Ghost Doctor, you have a good plan. According to what you said, the Shadow Sect only has you and Chinjiu now. Chapter 391. This is the 48th round. Wu Shentong silently calculated. He came from the Wu clan, which was the #1 clan in the southern border. They had a deep foundation and were an overlord of the righteous path. And he was an enslavement path Gu master that Wu clan heavily nurtured. His attainment in enslavement path was extraordinary. Wu Shentong's name sounded domineering, but in reality, he was as thin as a stick and his face was waxy yellow, like a sickly scholar. In fact, he originally had a broad back and a slim waist, and a fit body. In one battle, he was poisoned by Long Qingtian's jade sky venom. He sought out miracle Dr. Xingshou for treatment. Divine Doctor's sacred hands touched his chest. His eyes lit up as he sighed, "You're late. The poison has already penetrated deep into your bone marrow. I can preserve your life and cultivation, but the poison is deeply rooted and difficult to remove. From now on, you have to come here for treatment every once in a while. I'll help you get rid of the toxins regularly." It was because of the jade sky parasite that Wu Shentong became thinner day by day, becoming like this. I wonder which Gu master will be my opponent next. Wu Shentong walked in the fog with a deep gaze. Just now, out of the 3 choices, he had chosen the path in front of him. In King Quan's inheritance, the further one progressed, the more choices one would have. But most Gu masters would choose a dog group to play it safe. He would only choose to fight with others if he had no other choice. No matter how large the pack of dogs was, they were still animals. But with a Gu master's command, even the weakest dog group would pose a threat. However, Wu Shentong did the exact opposite. As long as he could fight with others, he would not choose any other path. In terms of enslavement path attainments, I am first-rate in southern border. In this 3 Forks mountain, I am almost #1. Only 2 opponents can threaten me. One was Wu Gui. He was a rank 5 Gu master and was once an enslavement path Gu master. But the enslavement path consumed a lot of resources. He had no choice but to change paths halfway. The other one was Zhang Sansan. He is a true enslavement path Gu master, but his cultivation level is lower than mine. Martial god art had a huge advantage in enslavement path. In terms of qualifications, Zhang Sansan was still his junior. And in this King Quan's inheritance, even if he fought Wu Gui head-on, he wouldn't be able to win. He was not afraid at all. With such great strength, of course, he had to attack his opponents first and eliminate as many competitors as possible. In the end, he was left alone to monopolize King Quan's inheritance. This was Wu Shentong's shrewd plan. If I count it, my next opponent will be the most powerful one. He should be the 23rd person I've hit. Humph, it's your bad luck to run into me. Wu Shentong snorted in his heart and stopped. Beside him, the dogs surrounded him in an orderly manner. He stared at the other side of the mist. In the fog, a group of dogs with rotting skin and purple bodies walked out one after another. Oh, corpse-eating dogs. Wu Shentong chuckled. He knew. This kind of dog beast was very useful in the early stages. This was because this type of dog beast could devour corpses to speed up the recovery of injuries. But as the battle progressed, the corpse-eating dogs grew weaker and weaker. Because of this dog. Their speed was not as fast as the lightning symbol dog, their defense was not as good as the armored dog, and their unity was not as good as the chrysanthemum Akita dog. Only those enslavement path Gu masters would be crazily infatuated with these useless corpse-eating dogs. Different professions are worlds apart. He was not an enslavement path Gu master and did not have decades of experience. But such details, as long as the person involved didn't say it, who would know? Moreover, since his rebirth, he had changed many things. Whether Long Qingtian's incident was something that happened in his previous life, it was hard to say. Forget about the beast placenta goo, what's worse is that this world is already poisoned by the jade sky goo, sooner or later the poison will take effect. By then, this world will rot and turn into a green light, forming a huge hole. Fong Yuan looked at this world. The green color was getting darker and spreading outwards. Such a hole would accelerate the decline of the blessed land. This also meant that the land spirit would be weakened. If it were a younger blessed land, as long as I have enough immortal essence, even if I can't cure the poison, I can get rid of this mutated area and make up for the hole. But this blessed land is too old, it lacks immortal essence. Once this hole forms, it will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Sigh, I don't have much time left to refine goo, I need to hurry. At this point, Fong Yuan's merciless massacre finally came to an end. He returned to the hall and continued to refine goo, racing against time. Time passed day by day, the pressure from spring-autumn cicada increased day by day. Fong Yuan slept for an hour on average every day, crazily squeezing out his potential. Under his desperate efforts, although there were many inevitable failures in the goo refinement process, the overall progress was quite fast. The land spirit praised him repeatedly. While Fong Yuan was moving towards success, his younger brother was also in high spirits. Central Continent, Tian Ti Mountain. At the center of Hu Immortal Blessed Land, on Dang Hun Mountain, Fangzhen climbed up with great effort, surpassing one figure after another. During this period of time, he had become the center of attention, attracting many people's attention. It's him, that Crane Gates Fangzhen. He surpassed another person. Someone was envious. Fangzhen. Looking at Fangzhen's climbing figure, Fairy Bai Xia had a complex gaze. This kid is indeed strange. Looking at this trend, I'm afraid he will be the first to reach the top. Wei Wuxiang, who had enmity towards Fangzhen, had to admit that Fangzhen had a high chance of winning. Fangzhen used both his hands and feet to climb. He breathed heavily, and with the help of Master Tenchiru, he surpassed one elite after another of the 10 sections. Eventually, only 3 people were left above him. Xiao Qixing, Ing Xingji, and Feng Kim Hong. This kid has finally caught up to the first echelon. It was not in vain that I used my own Wei Gu. He Fengyang had been paying attention, and seeing this situation, he let out a sigh of relief. If there are no accidents, the winner will be one of these 4. A Gu Immortal transmitted. Crane Gate's speed is quite fast, but who will emerge victorious is hard to say until the final moment. Indeed, Crane Gate is only 4th currently, there is a clear gap between him and the top 3. His previous efforts were not in vain. Thus he was relaxed. But this last step was the most crucial. It was a qualitative change and required the use of the Immortal Gu Divine Travel Gu. Although Fong Yuan had refined Spring-Autumn Cicada, he had never used an Immortal Gu to refine an Immortal Gu. Thus, this last step was also the one he had the least confidence in. Thus, his mood was heavy. 300 years as spring, 500 years as autumn. Divine opportunity is limitless, travel the wilderness, add 3 watch periods, 3 watch periods, 3 watch periods are 9. 9 is the extreme, the refinement is complete. This last step, I need to use Lifespan Gu, Divine Travel Gu and 2/3 Watch Gu. Fong Yuan pondered in his heart. He could understand the previous steps and could even modify them. But at this point, he only understood 30% of the true meaning. Land Spirit, what changes are there in the blessed land? Fong Yuan asked. 2 groups of people have arrived, dozens of rank 3 Gu Masters, each led by a rank 4 Gu Master. They are very imposing. The land spirit showed the scene to Fong Yuan. So it is Che tribe and Zhua tribe. TSK, the 2 tribe leaders and most of the elders have come. Fong Yuan took a look and recognized the situation. The whole of San Cha Mountain was located between Zhua tribe's Cold Tremor Mountain and Che tribe's Fei Lai Mountain. These 2 tribes had been expanding and had been competing in San Cha Mountain in recent years, having the intention to invade. But the eruption of the 3 kings' inheritance completely messed up the plans of these 2 tribes. The whole of southern border had 100,000 famed mountains and countless nameless mountains. There were also ferocious beasts and wild Gu worms everywhere. The environment was dangerous and difficult to travel. Other forces could only send their elites here. But these two tribes were in a favorable position and had been restraining themselves. Now that they sensed the abnormality of the inheritance, they finally sent a large group here. To Feng Yuan, this was bad news. At the final juncture, everyone would definitely attack the center of the blessed land, which was this main hall. These Che tribe and Zhua tribe people were Feng Yuan's enemies. Other than them, there will also be Li Xian, Hu Mei Er, Yihua, Kong Ri Tian and other experts. At the final juncture, I will need to refine Gu and can only rely on Land Spirit, Bai Ningbing and Feng Tianyu to defend against the enemies. The situation is dangerous, but it's only external. The final step, I need to use 2/3 watch Gu consecutively, which will cause my body's time to flow 9 times faster. To spring-autumn cicada, it is a great tonic. At that time, the pressure will rise sharply and my aperture will be in danger. This is the internal cause. With internal and external pressure, danger lurks everywhere. But I can only grit my teeth and persevere. I have already worked so hard and am just one step away from reaching the peak. If I don't take a gamble, I won't be satisfied. If I succeed, I will have a second aperture. With further nurturing, when I reach rank 6, I won't be too far behind Feng Kim Hong. In Feng Yuan's rebirth plan, Qingmao Mountain was only the starting point, Shangclan City was only a platform, and second aperture Gu was only a stepping stone. But it was because of these accumulations that he could charge towards a higher level. Next, there will be many fortuitous encounters. Without a certain level of cultivation and strength, one would not have the qualifications to participate. All living beings, survival of the fittest, I can't give in to these fortuitous encounters, and I have to seize every second. This is truly worthy of my rebirth body. Feng Yuan heaved a long sigh and began to rest, preparing for the final day. October 24th, Feng Yuan woke up from his slumber and slowly opened his eyes. I haven't slept so well for so many days, the great battle is coming up. He stood up and slowly walked out of the hall. Outside the hall, 2 people were already standing under the guidance of the land spirit. Master! Feng Tianyu saw Feng Yuan and immediately knelt on the ground, offering a Gu worm. This Gu looked ordinary, like a gray round stone. It was none other than undefeated 100 battles Gu. This subordinate did not disappoint you. I have already passed 100 rounds and obtained King Xian's inheritance, subduing these hairy men. Feng Tianyu said. Beside him stood hundreds of hairy men, each of them had thick hair and were standing silently. Good. Feng Yuan nodded, lightly praising, he was not surprised. These hairy men had a nature, they liked to follow people who were better at Gu refinement than themselves. Feng Tianyu had passed 100 rounds, it was not strange for him to have these followers. Feng Yuan walked towards Bai Ningbing. Bai Ningbing looked at the Grand Bronze Hall, her gaze revealing a trace of understanding. It seems that this is the Blessed Land's central area. Saying so, her gaze moved towards Feng Yuan. You better remember your promise. Feng Yuan smiled, don't worry. He looked behind Bai Ningbing. There were close to 100,000 dog beasts, some were entrenched on the ground, some were playing with each other, and some were running around. Feng Yuan frowned slightly, Bai Ningbing's control was too weak. If it were Zhang San, Wu Gui, or Wu Shintong, they would be able to make these dog beasts line up tightly and remain motionless like an army. But Bai Ningbing was forced to do something beyond her abilities. She did not have any enslavement path training, it was not easy for her to do this. In fact, Bai Ningbing's mind was in a daze, her movements were erratic, she had a feeling that her soul was heavy and her body was like a marionette. It was truly difficult for her to control so many dog beasts at once. Now, listen to my arrangements and set up the defenses. No matter what the enemy is, do not attack. Remember this, remember this. Feng Yuan instructed. Since it is your arrangement, success or failure has nothing to do with me. Bai Ningbing said coldly. Regardless of success or failure, I will give you the Yanggu. Feng Yuan guaranteed with a smile. You better keep your word. 2 light pillars disappeared, this means that King Xian and King Quan's inheritances were taken away. Early in the morning on San Cha Mountain, the Gu masters were incomparably shocked. There was a commotion. The opening of the inheritance this time is very strange. It has lasted until today, causing the blessed land to deteriorate rapidly. Someone was already suspicious. But compared to this, more people were concerned about the inheritance's whereabouts. As for the hairy men that the latter brought, they were left outside to guard the hall, forming the final line of defense. Looking at Fong Yuan and Feng Tianyu's departing figures, Bai Ningbing's eyes shone with a cold light. The fog started to rise and spread rapidly, soon covering the hall and all the dogs on the mound. The bronze hall was vast and majestic. Fong Yuan and Feng Tianyu's footsteps echoed, making this place even more quiet and spacious. Right now, the bronze bricks in the hall were already empty. Most of the materials and Gu worms had been used up during the Gu refinement, only a few carvings were left. Fong Yuan walked to the bronze cauldron and sat down with Feng Tianyu. This is the final step, the truly crucial moment. He breathed in deeply, his eyes clear like water. Feng Tianyu's breathing was rough, showing his excitement. To a refinement path Gu master, being able to refine immortal Gu was the most desired thing in their life. Let's begin. Fong Yuan took out the fake second aperture Gu and threw it into the bronze cauldron. The bronze cauldron ignited without any fire, only a thin layer of immortal essence was left at the bottom. It was being consumed rapidly and started to burn. The burning green smoke rose up like smoke, wrapping around the fake Gu in the second aperture. The fake Gu floated above the bronze cauldron and was transformed by the green smoke into a yellow light that filled the air. Fong Yuan and Feng Tianyu focused their minds and tried to harmonize the green smoke and the yellow light. After an unknown period of time, the green smoke turned into green grass that grew in the air. The yellow light turned into flowers that fell down and adorned the grass. It is time. Fong Yuan took out a dagger and cut his artery, spurting out his own blood essence. This step was indispensable. Only after this step could the refined second aperture Gu belong to Fong Yuan. Otherwise, it would be an ownerless object and would fly away once it was refined. A large amount of blood essence poured over. The green smoke and yellow light immediately let out a sizzling sound, turning into a red cloud that resembled a raging sea of blood. The blood surged, but it only formed into a ball that floated in the air and did not spread. The cloud continued to transform. The sea of blood gradually calmed down and condensed into a field. A large field of scarlet rice, scarlet like blood, grew on the field. Fong Yuan saw this and let out a breath of turbid air, quickly using Gu worms to heal his injuries. Even so, he had lost a lot of blood and his face was pale. Wild grass flourishes, blood chi like the sea. 300 years is spring, 500 years is autumn. Divine opportunity is limitless. Roam the wilderness, add the third watch is 9. 9 is the extreme, the refinement is complete. He had already memorized the recipe by heart, but he still recalled it now. 300 years is spring, 500 years is autumn, next, it is lifespan Gu. Ba Gue! Fong Yuan shouted. The land spirit was already on standby. Hearing Fong Yuan's call, it quickly took out 2 lifespan Gu. These lifespan Gu were one big and one small, like ginseng roots and old tree roots. Touching it, it felt rough and ancient. The small one was a 300 years lifespan Gu, like a green snake coiling in a circle. It could increase a Gu master's lifespan by 300 years without any side effects. The big one was like a horned dragon flying in the sky, bearing its fangs and claws. It could increase a Gu master's lifespan by 500 years without any side effects. The value of these 2 Gu was self-evident. Feng Tianyu saw this and his eyes shone, his body trembling. Fong Yuan first threw the 300 years lifespan Gu into the cloud. The cloud swallowed the lifespan Gu and immediately surged like boiling water. At this moment, the cloud seemed to have turned into a green-scaled snake, slithering and trying to escape from Fong Yuan's control. Fong Yuan jumped in shock. He was caught unprepared and almost let the green snake escape. When he reacted, It seemed that the green snake had already mostly escaped from his hand, only its tail was left. Fong Yuan gritted his teeth, his eyes wide open and red. He poured all his attention into the cloud without holding back, using all his strength to firmly hold onto it, not letting it escape. Chapter 396. Time became unbearable at this moment. As the minutes and seconds passed, the cloud in the air gradually stabilized. Fong Yuan finally had the spare energy to curse the original owner of the blessed land. Such an important obstacle, there was actually no annotation in the recipe. If not for his concentration and reaction time, as well as Feng Tianyu's help, he could barely stabilize the situation and turn the tables. Otherwise, he would have failed completely. As time gradually passed, a mystical aura spread out from the place. The cloud completely digested the 300 years lifespan goo and calmed down, turning back into the scene of the blood field and red rice. But now, the red rice had turned into a green color, like rice growing in spring, densely packed. It was the scene of 300 years as spring described in the recipe. That mysterious goo immortal must have only researched the recipe, but did not use it to this step, otherwise, why would he not make any annotations? Fong Yuan came back to his senses, thinking, next, I need to use the 500 years lifespan goo. But there is no rush. He wiped the sweat off his forehead, calling the land spirit, Ba Gui, show me the scene of that poisonous land. Immediately, a smoke image appeared in the air, showing the scene. Long Qing Tian's corpse, quietly lying on the ground. The surrounding sky and ground were dyed a deep green color. It was Long Qing Tian's jade sky goo poison. This goo originated from the immemorial era, its poison was extremely strong, even Fong Yuan did not dare to touch it. Coincidentally, at this time, two goo masters appeared in the scene, both with rank 3 cultivation. This place is strange, why is it so green? Look, that corpse, it's Long Qing Tian. They rushed here, and unexpectedly found Long Qing Tian's corpse. Long Qing Tian is rank 4 peak stage, a famous demon, he was actually killed. Let's go take a look, there might be something good on his corpse. The two were excited, running towards Long Qing Tian's corpse. Blinded by greed, they did not realize their bodies were dyed in green light. Courting death. Fong Yuan sneered. Sure enough, the two of them did not even manage to take 10 steps before they died from the poison, turning into green light and disappearing into the horizon. The poison of the blue sky poisonous insect has accumulated deeply. This area is going to be ruined. The hole formed is even bigger than the one created by Xiao Mang. Time was of the essence, and every second was precious. Fong Yuan was also extremely anxious, but he still chose to restrain himself. After the time it took to drink half a cup of tea, there was a loud boom. The blessed land shook and the main hall trembled. The second loophole was formed. The land spirit let out a long sigh. The speed at which the blessed land was collapsing was too fast. It had doubled again. Continue refining goo. Fong Yuan took out the 500-year lifespan goo and threw it into the cloud. The clouds began to boil again, trying to break free from Fong Yuan's control. But this time, Fong Yuan was mentally prepared. He wasn't caught off guard like last time, so he was able to firmly control the situation. However, he soon felt that his strength was not enough. This time, the change in the clouds and mist gave him a feeling. Not only was it slippery, but it also carried a kind of brute force. It was like a green snake had turned into a dragon, trying to break free from Fong Yuan's control. Feng Tianyu quickly helped. The two's minds worked together to suppress the clouds' change. The clouds boiled several times, almost breaking free, but were eventually suppressed. After the time it takes to burn half a stick of incense, the clouds became clear again. It turned into a field of blood. The rice on the field was golden and full of fruits. This was the scene of 500 years is autumn. After a while, he fell to the ground with a thud. Dead. The demonic path Gu masters gasped. Fiery Star Bao Tong, a famous rank 4 fire path Gu master. Mo Wu Tian didn't even move, he just stared and killed him. You want an explanation, I will give you one. Are you satisfied with this explanation? If not, you can tell me. Mo Wu Tian looked at Bao Tong's corpse, listening attentively. You are not speaking, it seems you are satisfied. Mo Wu Tian laughed, looking around. Bao Tong is satisfied, are you guys satisfied? Do you want me to give you an explanation? The surroundings were deathly silent. Mo Wu Tian killed people while talking. Bao Tong was rank 4 upper stage, but he could not even block one move, dying instantly. The demonic path Gu masters were shocked and afraid, they started to regret being blinded by greed. Why did they follow Mo Wu Tian? Now that they were on the pirate ship, they wanted to leave. Too late. Hu Mei'er and the rest lowered their heads, not daring to look at Mo Wu Tian's eyes. Mo Wu Tian's method of killing made them tremble in fear. They had thought that Mo Wu Tian had just advanced to rank 5, his battle strength might not be rank 5, but to think that Mo Wu Tian's battle strength was beyond imagination, comparable to Wu Gui and the rest. How old was he? The number 1 genius of the demonic path, truly deserving of his title. After successfully killing and establishing his might, Mo Wu Tian laughed evilly. Bao Tong's Gu are still here, you guys can split them. Consider it my compensation. Once he said this, the Gu master's eyes brightened. Li Xian was the first to react. With a whoosh, he pounced on Bao Tong's corpse like a rabbit, taking his Gu worms. Almost at the next moment, Hu Mei'er and Li Chang also reacted, pouncing on him. The others could only stare, not daring to fight. The 3 of them took all of Bao Tong's wealth, gaining a lot. The resentment in their hearts dissipated, turning into reverence towards Mo Wu Tian. Mo Wu Tian could use his gaze to kill. This was not strange, it was a visual killer move. This killer move directly competed with the soul. The loser's soul would dissipate, not even having the chance to self-detonate their Gu worms. Mo Wu Tian was a soul path Gu master, the strength of his soul was unrivaled. If he could deal with Bao Tong like this, wouldn't it be easy for him to deal with them? Cough, cough. Li Xian coughed, asking, since there are dog beasts guarding this place, then this must be the central control hall. There is a high chance that the Gu immortal's wealth is hidden there. But how are we going to kill our way in? He was astute. After obtaining the most benefits from Bao Tong, he immediately expressed his support for Mo Wu Tian. Speaking of the Gu immortal's inheritance, Hu Mei'er and Li Chang's attention was also drawn to this topic. Mo Wu Tian looked at the people around him. They were all injured, their faces were haggard, they were frightened and had low morale. The demonic path was not like the righteous path. The righteous path was united and easy to ally with, while the demonic path Gu masters were used to roaming alone. Although he, Mo Wu Tian, had rank 5 cultivation, he was still young, and this was his first time acting as the leader. He could not convince the others. Kong Ri Tian and Li Fei Lu, these demonic path veterans, would not easily listen to him. Only by making them realize the necessity and benefits of working together, could he take advantage of the situation and get twice the result with half the effort. At this moment, in the hall, the Gu refinement had reached a crucial moment. After brewing for a long time, the golden peanut shell and divine travel Gu collided. Rumble. Fong Yuan and Feng Tian Yu's vision darkened, as thunderous roars resounded in their ears. Unlimited divine opportunity, roam the wilderness. Open for me. Fong Yuan screamed, using all his concentration to activate divine travel Gu. Divine travel Gu was an immortal Gu. How could a mortal like him activate it so easily? Fortunately, he had the land spirit's secret help. As immortal essence gushed out, divine travel Gu turned into a speck of light and entered the golden peanut shell. Chapter 398. Xiao Meng looked at the fog in front of him, his gaze deep. He relied on his rank 5 cultivation to obtain the authority of the Righteous Path's commander. He had organized several attacks, but they were all defeated and returned in low spirits. In the fog, there were countless dogs and beasts, causing every wave of goo masters that charged in to suffer heavy losses. Even if the losses are heavy, they cannot stop my footsteps. Immortal treasure, this is an immortal treasure. Xiao Mang's eyes shone with brilliance as he shouted in his heart. Let's continue and organize the next wave of attacks. Xiao Mang shouted, but there were few who responded this time. The lesson of blood was right in front of them. Even though the benefits were huge, these righteous goo masters could not help but hesitate. After all, they only had one life. A bunch of cowards. Xiao Mang saw everyone hesitating and cursed in his heart. To him, time was of the essence. Other than this immortal treasure, he still had King Bao's inheritance waiting for him to open. If there is an enslavement path goo master commanding the beast group as cannon fodder, then the goo master casualties will decrease sharply and we can definitely regroup. Xiao Mang suddenly thought of this. At this moment, the importance of enslavement path goo masters became obvious. Where did Wu Clan's Wu Shentong go? With Wu Shentong's help, we can definitely break through the fog and reach the central control hall. Xiao Mang asked. But the answer he got made him extremely disappointed. Wu Shentong was nowhere to be seen. Even Wu Clan's clansmen were looking for him. Xiao Mang looked at the demonic formation and his heart shook. Not just Wu Shentong, even the demonic paths Wu Gui and Zhang San have not appeared. Don't tell me the one controlling the dog beasts in the fog is one of them? Xiao Mang guessed in his heart as he looked at the general direction of the sacred hall. But the fog in front of him blocked his vision, making him even more irritated. Damn this fog, so annoying. Too bad Wanli Xiongfeng is not here. Otherwise, my clan's divine wind would have dispersed the fog long ago. Wan clan's goo master sighed. If our clan's old clan leader appeared, would we be afraid of mere dogs? Tai clan's 4 old-timers snorted. Lord Xiao Mang, there is no progress in the situation. There are still demonic goo masters watching us from the side. What should we do next? The Righteous Path's famous healing goo master Tao Zi walked over and asked Xiao Mang. These demonic bastards. Xiao Mang glanced at the Diabolism camp in the distance and became even more annoyed. Looks like I have to make a move. He snorted coldly, and his eyes shone brightly. All of you, step back. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly retreated dozens of steps. Suddenly, there was an empty space around Xiao Mang, highlighting his existence. Xiao Mang stood still. Slowly closing his eyes, he poured his consciousness into his aperture and slowly circulated his purple crystal primeval essence. The waves on the surface of the quintessential sea grew larger and larger. After brewing for a while, Xiao Mang suddenly opened his eyes. The primeval sea had already turned into a tsunami, and a large amount of primeval essence poured into the 3 goo worms. Extreme light goo. Self-will goo. Bright spear goo. Killing move, glory of my spear. Xiao Mang's body began to emit dazzling white light. The light was dense and rapidly expanded to the size of a hill. Xiao Mang was bathed in the light, looking majestic and awe-inspiring. It was as if a deity had descended to the mortal world. He slowly pointed his finger in the direction of the thick fog. Instantly, the incandescent light around him was drawn in. It fiercely shot out. All the snow-white sunlight shot out the moment it shot out. It formed a light spear that was 60 feet long and 20 feet wide. The white light turned into a human. It was the rank 5 righteous path expert Xiao Mang. Ing Ming. Bai Ningbing endured the pressure and called out in his heart, sending out a second dog emperor. This second dog emperor was only the size of an ordinary dog beast. Its snow-white fur had bright patterns, like pink cherry blossoms. Facing Xiao Mang's intense pressure, the wild goo on the dog emperor Ing Ming's body was also activated, causing clouds to form on Ing Ming's 4 legs as it flew up. A mere wild dog, it is actually a dog emperor. Xiao Mang sneered, attacking and defending at lightning speed, but he quickly retracted his underestimation and calmly faced the battle. Bai Ningbing's expression was gloomy. Although the 2 rank 5 experts were blocked, this situation was only temporary. Man was the spirit of all living beings. Man's intelligence surpassed beasts in the end. Eventually, Mo Wu Tian and Xiao Meng would get to know the Dog Emperor's background, and with ease, they could even turn around. They would directly kill her, Bai Ningbing. Bai Ningbing looked around the battlefield, the others were still fighting in the center, there was no threat for now. Bai Ningbing let out a sigh of relief, turning her gaze back to the bronze hull. There is not much time left. Her blue eyes squinted, emitting a cold radiance. Inside the bronze hull, Feng Yuan breathed roughly, he was breathing roughly. And Feng Tianyu. He had already fallen to the side, unconscious. Feng Yuan's 7 orifices were bleeding, but he did not care. A pair of burning eyes stared in front of him. A goo, emitting a brilliant light, floated in the air. It did not have a specific shape. Sometimes it was like a colorful cloud, sometimes it was like a whirlpool of light. Success! Feng Yuan was filled with joy. He had already successfully refined divine travel goo. Now, he was only one step away from obtaining the second aperture goo. You succeeded, you really succeeded. The land spirit appeared beside Feng Yuan, it was very weak, but its eyes were shining, filled with the joy of success. You are indeed a future goo immortal, being able to refine divine travel goo, amazing. Entrusting it to you was indeed the right choice. Now, the most difficult hurdle is finally over, this is the clouds parting to see the clear sky. Next, I will use third watch goo, success will follow naturally, there is no more difficulty. The land spirit sighed, full of emotions. After thousands of years of hard work, I have finally succeeded today. The recipe is indeed feasible, I am really happy, really excited. But, it is a pity. I will not be able to see the second aperture goo. Saying so, the land spirit Ba Gui's body gradually faded, becoming more and more faint, until it completely disappeared in the air. It was dead. The immortal essence in the bronze cauldron had already been used up, only a thin trace was left. The blessed land had mostly collapsed, its destruction was close at hand. The old and weak Ba Gui assisted Feng Yuan in refining goo, and also helped Bai Ningbing defend the formation, but it could not resist such pressure, completely dying in this world. But compared to his previous life, dying in despair under everyone's attacks, it was much happier in this life, it could be said to have died a worthy death. Ba Gui's death meant that the immortal essence could not be used. But Feng Yuan was not nervous. For the next step, large amounts of Yuan stone could be used as a substitute. Even if Ba Gui was still here, the trace of immortal essence in the bronze cauldron had to support the blessed land's operation, it could not be used to refine goo. The difficulty of refining the immortal goo this time is even higher than spring-autumn cicada. Just now, when the hull shook, I almost failed. If I failed, my mortal body would definitely die from the backlash, I would not even have time to activate spring-autumn cicada. Moreover, this most crucial step consumes a lot of mental energy, a mortal would not be able to do it. Fortunately, for safety's sake, I chose to enslave Feng Tianyu. Otherwise, I would not have succeeded. In his previous life, when Feng Yuan refined spring-autumn cicada, he was already a goo immortal. This time, he had no hope of refining the immortal goo with the qualifications of a mortal. But firstly, the mysterious goo immortal had racked his brains and spent his entire life researching this recipe, it was indeed the essence. Secondly, the recipe used the immortal goo divine travel, greatly reducing the difficulty of transcending mortality. Thirdly, it was not Feng Yuan's own strength, he had to rely on the land spirit and refinement master Feng Tianyu's help. Because of all these factors, Feng Yuan was able to complete the most dangerous and difficult step. Next is to use third watch goo, this is much simpler. Right, I wonder what the situation outside is like. Feng Yuan calmed down and retracted his mind, only then did he hear the battle cries outside the hall. Feng Yuan, be careful. A hole has been broken in the dog formation, there is a rank 4 goo master charging towards you. Right at this time, Bai Ningbing sent a warning. Feng Yuan's expression sank as he slowly stood up. The aura of death was so dense that it assaulted his senses. Fang Yuan had no choice but to transmit his voice again. Swoosh! Cold wind blew, frost spread and condensed into an ice wall, blocking all the golden needles. At the next moment, Bai Ningbing also appeared at the entrance of the hall. But her condition was clearly not good. Her body was bathed in blood and full of injuries. One of the most serious injuries. On her back, from her shoulder to her abdomen, it was so deep that her bones could be seen. Her clothes were stained with green leaves, her silver-white hair was also burnt, and her entire left arm was black and purple. It was evident that she was poisoned. Quickly stop her. Fang Yuan growled, I only need this bit of time. If you have the mood to talk nonsense, you might as well hurry up and refine the goo. Bai Ningbing gritted her teeth, scolding angrily. She caught up in a few steps and started fighting with Tai Ruanan. Tai Ruanan sneered, her golden needles shot out like lightning, her attacks were extremely fierce. Bai Ningbing gritted her teeth and persevered. She was heavily injured, her battle strength was less than a tenth of her original strength, and soon fell into a dangerous situation. After a few rounds of fighting, Bai Ningbing's injuries were severe, the intense pain caused her leg to sprain and her body to sway. Tai Ruanan sharply grasped the opportunity. She suddenly attacked viciously. Bai Ningbing suffered another heavy injury, falling to the ground. I will kill you first. Tai Ruanan's forehead flashed, the imprint on her forehead turned solid. It formed into a golden flying dagger that shot out. Swoosh! The golden flying dagger pierced through the air, missing Bai Ningbing's neck by a few millimeters, stabbing into the bronze floor. Bai Ningbing rolled in time, dodging the fatal attack. She shouted, How much longer do you need? Fang Yuan's heart was pounding, he gritted his teeth and shouted, Just a bit more. Even if you die, you have to hold on. If I die, you won't be able to live either. Bai Ningbing's curses were interrupted by Tai Ruanan's attack. Tai Ruanan's attacks came wave after wave. Bai Ningbing was forced to retreat, she could only dodge, struggling on the line between life and death. The situation was extremely dangerous. After a few rounds, Bai Ningbing breathed roughly, I can't hold on anymore. Fang Yuan, I am going to self-detonate. Your aptitude, has it returned to 100%? Fang Yuan was shocked. Nonsense. Bai Ningbing scolded. Fang Yuan squinted his eyes. Bai Ningbing returning to the northern dark ice soul physique was inevitable. But he did not expect it to be so fast. According to his deductions, even if he had 3 times the time in the blessed land, it would still take several months. Fang Yuan was at the critical juncture of goo refinement, he could not think too much. The self-detonation of one of the 10 extreme physiques was extremely powerful, even a rank 5 goo master would have to avoid it. Once Bai Ningbing self-detonated, it would greatly affect the entire battle. Try to hold on, unless absolutely necessary. Fang Yuan shouted. He was refining goo with his back facing the door, he could not observe the fight between Tai Ruanan and Tai Ruanan. But the response he got was a deep sigh from Bai Ningbing, it's too late. The next moment, Fang Yuan felt cold air permeating the hall, the temperature plummeting. Crack crack, the sound of ice condensing could be heard continuously. What goo is this? Tai Ruanan's exclamation was also transmitted to Fang Yuan's ears. Fang Yuan barely managed to turn his head to look, only to see that the hall had already turned into a world of ice and snow. Bai Ningbing floated in the air, her whole body had already turned into ice crystals, just like when she self-detonated on Qingmao Mountain. Chapter 401. At this moment, the bronze hall was deathly silent. Time seemed to have frozen, the atmosphere was heavy and oppressive. Fang Yuan sat cross-legged on the ground, the rank 6 second aperture goo was floating in the air in front of him. The immortal goo refinement was a success, but Fang Yuan's attention was not on this immortal goo at all. He turned his head with difficulty, looking at Bai Ningbing behind him, his gaze revealing deep suspicion. Bai Ningbing, who had returned to his male body, held the handle of his ice blade, expressionlessly standing behind him. Tai Ruanan slowly walked over, staring at Fang Yuan, her expression seeming both sad and happy. Fang Yuan, you never thought this day would come, right? Fang Yuan pretended not to hear her, only looking at Bai Ningbing. Bai Ningbing looked down at Fang Yuan, returning to being a man. His body was taller, he wore a snow-white gown, his silver hair fluttering in the wind, his blue eyes deep and cold. He was like a glacier, cold and aloof. You never thought of it, right? Fang Yuan, in the end, you lost to me. Looking at Fang Yuan, Bai Ningbing lightly smiled. Ever since I revived on Qingmao Mountain, I have been thinking about how to return to my male body. In the days I spent with you, I was firmly controlled by you. I could only become your chess piece and be manipulated by you. You are not the strongest enemy in my life, but I admit, you are the most terrifying one. Oh Fang Yuan, you are a natural schemer, ruthless, you can be said to be a peerless hero. But I, Bai Ningbing, am not an ordinary person. How can I become someone else's subordinate? Humph. The more you control me, squeeze me, use me, I am constantly thinking of how to escape, turn the tables, and counterattack. But the Yanggu is in your hands, with just a thought, you can make it self-detonate. Thus, I held back from taking action, racking my brains to think of a countermeasure. Finally, one day, I had a flash of inspiration and thought of a method. Actually, making you hand over your goo worms on your own, I had already succeeded once on Qingmao Mountain. That's right, that is to reenact the situation on Qingmao Mountain. When I self-detonate again, it will be time for you to use Yanggu. Because of this, I began to secretly plot. The smile on Bai Ningbing's face gradually spread. If I want to self-detonate, of course it will not be a true self-detonation. There is still the possibility of you not using the Yanggu. So, I chose Ice Crystal Goo. Fang Yuan's expression was grim. In Shangclan City, Bai Ningbing chose the ice path. Among them, there were 3 transformation goo, Frost Demon Goo, Snow Woman Goo, and Ice Crystal Goo. Wei Yang had once strongly suggested to Bai Ningbing to choose Snow Woman Goo. Snow Woman Goo was suitable for female Goo masters. As for Ice Crystal Goo, it was suitable for males. Bai Ningbing was a woman, but she chose Ice Crystal Goo. Wei Yang felt that it was a pity. You thought of it. Bai Ningbing laughed. That's right, I did not choose the Ice Crystal Goo in a fit of pique. It was the Snow Woman Goo's transformation into a snow woman. The image was obvious and could not be concealed. But after turning into ice crystals, with the help of the Ice Explosion Goo, it could create a majestic scene, extremely similar to the self-detonation of the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique. Look, didn't I deceive you earlier? If I was not distracted during the Goo refinement, I would have sensed something fishy. How could you have succeeded so easily? Fang Yuan scoffed. Bai Ningbing, however, showed a serious expression, nodding. That's right. You are meticulous and observant. After I thought of this method, I felt it was not appropriate. There was a high chance of failure. Moreover, there was a turning point at that time. I even wanted to give up on this plan. Fang Yuan cursed fiercely, but had new suspicions. But you only met once, didn't you? No, wait, there was a second time. Fang Yuan was halfway through his words when he suddenly recalled something. In Shangclan City, Bai Ningbing and Dr. Su Shou had met for the second time. At that time, Bai Ningbing and Yen Tu fought. They were only one move apart, but regrettably lost, suffering heavy injuries and even losing her vital goo. She went to Dr. Su Shou's place to receive treatment and recuperate. Don't tell me. Fang Yuan suddenly thought of something. His gaze was like lightning, piercing towards Bai Ningbing, as if this was the first time he saw this cold and handsome young man. Bai Ningbing smiled lightly. Her blue eyes were eerie. It seems you have guessed it. That's right, I lost the battle with Yen Tu on purpose. A vital goo is nothing, but in exchange for a chance to not arouse your suspicions, isn't it worth it? At that time, I decided to take a gamble. Bai Ningbing went to Dr. Su Shou's place, and based on his intuition, he took a risk. He confessed the rough truth to Dr. Su Shou. Dr. Su Shou sympathized with his predicament and decided to help him escape from Fang Yuan's demonic claws. Bai Ningbing asked her if there was a way to get rid of the poison vow in this world. Dr. Su Shou answered that she could not get rid of the poison vow, but there was a way to get rid of the restriction of the poison vow. She recalled, once, when she was young and ignorant, she was deceived by a junior brother, and used the poison vow gu, making a love vow that she would never betray him. Later, to get rid of the poison vow, she used this method. Bai Ningbing asked, "What method is it?" Dr. Su Shou's gaze was solemn as she said, "Putting oneself in a desperate situation to be reborn. Once the poison vow gu activates, it would cause the oath-taker to die." Dr. Su Shou was a healing gu master. Her method was to purposely let the poison vow activate, and when the gu master dies, the poison vow would be removed, and the gu master would be reborn. This method is equivalent to forcefully dismantling the poison. Most healing gu masters cannot do it even if they think of it. I only managed to do it because of my special inheritance. Even so, there is a 1 in 3 chance of failure. Once you fail, you will die. You need to think carefully. Dr. Su Shou warned. Bai Ningbing immediately decided to use this method. With Dr. Su Shou's help, he was lucky enough to get rid of the poison vow gu's restriction. Without the poison vow gu's restriction, Bai Ningbing secretly contacted Tai Clan, and Tai Ruanan found out the truth. The one in front of her was Fang Yuan and not Fang Zheng. At the same time, she also understood what happened on Qingmao Mountain. To deal with Fang Yuan, Bai Ningbing and Tai Ruanan started a secret collaboration. We had once set up a trap, using iron cabinet gu and chi turn gu to set up the place, and a good show of self-detonation would happen there. But you did not come to rescue us. I could only bring my subordinates and rush to Sancha Mountain, and make my next move. Tai Ruanan said. Back then, Bai Ningbing was trapped by the 4 old-timers of Tai Clan for many days. On the surface, it was because Bai Ningbing killed a Tai Clan gu master in the inheritance, so Tai Clan took revenge. But in truth, it was a plot against Fang Yuan. What happened next was that Fang Yuan fought 1 against 7, slaughtering the Tai Clan group, and finally, Tai Mu Bai appeared. Tai Ruanan received Tai Mu Bai's teachings, and while cultivating, she patiently waited for Bai Ningbing's news. This was also one of the reasons why even though she hated Fang Yuan, she did not take the initiative to search for him. But afterwards, Fang Yuan shocked the world with a single brilliant feat, and after entering the 3 kings' inheritance, he firmly controlled the entire situation. Tai Mu Bai's death made Bai Ningbing choose to remain silent and hide even deeper. He used Fang Yuan's trust to command the dog group. With the land spirit's death, he could no longer look down on the battlefield, and the pressure on the battlefield rose again. But at the same time, without the land spirit's surveillance, Bai Ningbing felt relaxed. He was still worried, and probed Fang Yuan, purposely sending Yan Jun in. As he expected, Feng Tianyu was lured out, which proved that the land spirit was dead. Bai Ningbing was secretly happy, and once again sent Tai Ruanan and the 4 old-timers in. The reason why Tai Ruanan was the first to enter the hall was also because of this. Fang Yuan, I advise you to surrender obediently. Right now, our Tai Clan enslavement master Tai Bai Chi is controlling the dog group, and everyone is helpless. Outside the hall, the 4 old-timers are using iron cabinet gu and chi turn gu to seal the space, and no one can sneak in. Only surrender, that is your only way out. Tai Ruanan walked over, holding the 2nd aperture gu as she announced his fate. Just the dog group and the 4 old-timers cannot block them all the time. As long as they attack, the situation will change. Fate was truly fickle. Not long ago, Fang Yuan was still using all sorts of methods to block the experts, but now, he could not wait for the experts to charge into the hall. Damn Tai Clan, you are the mastermind. The old patriarch of the Tai Clan, Tai Mu Bai, personally came. What attracted him here? We should have thought of it. Even if Tai Clan is a super clan, don't think of monopolizing it, everyone has a share of the immortal treasure. On the intense battlefield, everyone was in a frenzy. Looking at the direction of the bronze hall, many Gu masters were spewing fire from anger. A purple light barrier covered the whole bronze hall. Tai clans 4 old-timers each occupied 4 directions, guarding it tightly. Meanwhile, Tai Baichi was standing at the entrance of the hall, commanding the dog group from above. He was an old man with a head full of white hair, and a third eye on his forehead, shining brightly. He was a rank 5 enslavement path Gu master, an elder of Tai clan, and was once Tai Mu Bai's capable subordinate. After receiving Tai Mu Bai's summon, he broke out of his closed-door cultivation and came to Sancha Mountain. Right now, Tai Baichi was smiling as he looked at the battlefield. Under his command, the dog group's battle strength was several times higher than before. Tai Baichi did not care about his losses, and blocked all the experts. This old fool is really troublesome. Mo Wu Tian's black hair fluttered in the wind as he breathed roughly. In front of him, Dog Emperor Ba Huang was already bathed in blood, and was in a worse state than Mo Wu Tian. But soon, the healing goo on its body activated, and under the milky white light, Ba Huang's injuries recovered rapidly. Mo Wu Tian was about to follow up with another attack, when a large group of Greenhua dogs charged from the side. This again. Mo Wu Tian gritted his teeth. He had no choice but to kill these reinforcements first. Using this chance, Ba Huang regained its breath, and its injuries recovered greatly, becoming fierce again. Compared to the situation whereby Ning Bing could not take care of the Dog Emperor, Tai Baichi was more at ease. He controlled the entire battlefield, controlling the situation, fully displaying the strong side of the enslavement path. On the other side, Xiao Meng was also heavily taken care of by Tai Baichi. This won't do, the immortal treasure is going to be taken by Tai clan. Xiao Meng was anxious and hateful, but Dog Emperor Ba Ming was blocking in front of him, preventing him from entering the hall. Bastard, you forced me! Xiao Meng roared in anger, flying into the sky. A huge hole had already appeared in the sky, tens of mu in size. Outside the hole was the sky of the outside world, clouds were lingering, and the sky was clear. Xiao Meng flew out of the hole, raising his hands. Rank 4, gather light goo. Chapter 403. Damn it! Fong Yuan cursed, waving his hand and sending out a golden dragon. Unspecified currency website, unspecified currency. The golden dragon whizzed past, crushing these heavy Tai hounds into meat paste and opening a path. Little Beast King, where are you going? Hand over the immortal treasure. Yi Chong arrived in front of Fong Yuan, waves surging towards him. Bone wings goo. Fong Yuan flapped his wings, dodging the waves and flying towards the sky. Little Beast King, you should stay. Yi Huo waved his hand, the firebird flew towards Fong Yuan. Golden Aurora goo. Fong Yuan's body was covered in a layer of golden light, his speed rose rapidly, and after getting rid of the firebird, he retreated. This huge commotion attracted Mo Wu Tian and Xiao Meng's attention. Xiao Meng sent out a giant hand of light, the size of an elephant, flying rapidly and grabbing at Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan turned around and dodged. But at this time, he heard a gentle voice calling out to him. This voice was like the whisper of a lover, or the longing call of a loved one. Those who did not know could not help but be captivated and distracted. Mo Wu Tian's tender emotion goo. Fong Yuan was shocked and quickly struggled free, but his movement was still sluggish as the giant hand of light grabbed at him again. Oh no! It was too late to dodge now. Fong Yuan could only use his goo worm to attack instead of defend. Bam! With a loud sound, the giant hand of light was destroyed, while Fong Yuan fell towards the ground like a broken kite, leaving a trail of blood behind him. The sound of wind whistling in his ears woke up the unconscious Fong Yuan. Realizing he was falling, he quickly activated his goo worm and shouted, Tai Ruanan obtained the peerless immortal goo and is refining it. Mo Wu Tian and Xiao Meng's attention was immediately diverted. Immortal goo. The crowd was in an uproar, falling into an incomparable frenzy. Tai Baiqi's pressure rose sharply. Fang Yuan obtained a breather and immediately activated Wu Gui's movement gu. Large patches of dark clouds rose, he hid in the dark clouds and continued to retreat. But at this moment, Suddenly, 4 chains extended from the void. They were as nimble as snakes and as fast as lightning, binding Fang Yuan's limbs. Then, the chains quickly wrapped around him tightly. It spread rapidly, binding Fang Yuan and dragging him into the void. In the next moment, Fang Yuan reappeared in the bronze hall. The 4 elders of the Tai family occupied the 4 cardinal directions, surrounding him. They squatted on the ground. He straightened his right palm and held his right wrist with his left hand, activating the gu worm together. A long black iron chain extended from each of their palms. Tai clan's 4 elders killer move, limitless search and lock. At the same time, Central Continent, Heaven Ladder Mountain. Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Dang Hun Mountain. The fight for the ownership of Hu Immortal Blessed Land had reached its final stage. Fangzheng, you can do it. Victory is just around the corner. Master Tenchuru's voice rang out. It echoed in Fangzheng's heart. Compared to before, his voice was filled with extreme fatigue and weakness. Yes, only one opponent is left. Fangzheng gritted his teeth, his whole body was covered in sweat. His body was on the verge of collapsing, but he showed a resolute will. Me. The great Xiao Qixing was actually surpassed by an unknown nobody. Xiao Qixing's eyes were wide open as he watched Fangzheng climb and surpass him. Sigh, to think the final outcome would be like this. Xingji heaved a long sigh and suddenly let go, falling down from the mountain. He was the furthest from the peak, and after seeing Fangzheng's performance, he knew he had no chance of winning, so he directly admitted defeat. Hu Immortal Land's spirit naturally would not sit and watch him fall to his death. She lightly snapped her fingers and teleported Xingji to the outside world. The dangerous huge waves crashed over again and again. The spring and autumn cicada soon lost its vitality, the energy from its self-destruction was used up. It struggled for a while, before diving into one of the water droplets and vanishing. Fang Yuan blinked, the scene in front of him had already changed. Wait, everything can be discussed. I can promise you, I will tell you the correct path, but you have to guarantee my safety. I have a poison vow gu on me. A familiar begging voice could be heard. Fang Yuan followed the voice and looked down, seeing Wang Xiao who was below his feet. He stared blankly for a moment, and then his heart thumped wildly. His expression changed, revealing an unconcealable ecstasy. Ha, I succeeded again, I won the bet, I have been reborn again. Fang Yuan raised his arms and shouted, laughing towards the sky. Wang Xiao, Fang Yuan's sudden performance made him shocked and suspicious. What rebirth? What succeeded again? Could it be that this fellow was mentally unstable? But come to think of it, there are many crazy demonic gu masters. Damn it, I actually met such a lunatic. Wang Xiao, who was being stepped on by Fang Yuan on the ground, thought of this as he begged even louder. Ha. Fang Yuan's laughter did not stop. This feeling of escaping from a hopeless situation and starting all over again was too amazing, too wonderful. He first checked his aperture. In the center of the aperture, the vital gu, spring and autumn cicada, was weakened again. Its originally glossy and shiny appearance was now like a withered autumn leaf. Fang Yuan willed, and spring and autumn cicada gradually concealed itself, falling into a deep slumber, once again absorbing the power of time to recover. This way, the internal thread of spring and autumn cicada is temporarily resolved. Fang Yuan's laughter became louder, his eyes shining with brilliance. He assessed his surroundings again. This was clearly still in the Blessed Land. Wang Xiao was being stepped on, and there was a corpse beside him. It was Yun Clan's young clan leader, Yun Luo Tian. He was killed by Bai Ningbing, and his corpse was transported here by the land spirit by expending immortal essence. Thinking of Bai Ningbing, Fang Yuan's laughter suddenly stopped, unable to continue. It was this guy who plotted for a long time and suddenly betrayed him, causing him to fail on the verge of success even though he successfully refined second aperture goo, falling into a desperate situation. If not for Spring and Autumn Cicada, if not for his good luck this time, Fang Yuan would have been completely screwed. Be it death or being imprisoned in the demon suppression tower, there would be no chance to turn things around. The demonic path was like this, it was like walking on a tightrope on a cliff, one careless move and the whole game would be lost. Falling to the bottom of the mountain valley, there was no way to turn things around. I was too careless, thinking of Feng Kim Hong and refining the immortal goo, but neglected the true demon hiding beside me. This Bai Ning Bing's acting was too realistic, plotting for many years, purposely acting to numb me before suddenly erupting. Ha, I am only a mortal after all, I am not an invincible god. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan's mouth was filled with bitterness. Fang Yuan was improving. He was growing boldly and vigorously, and so was Bai Ning Bing. This was the cruelty of reality, and also the beauty of fate. In this world, everyone was a main character, and everyone was also a supporting character. Everyone has their own advantages. Bai Ning Bing has the northern dark ice soul physique, I Ruanan has the backing of Tai clan, Feng Kim Hong found an immortal goo in his dream at 3 years old, while I struggled everywhere. After cultivating for hundreds of years, I refined Spring and Autumn Cicada. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan suddenly became excited, he smiled brightly and recited, looking at the myriad mountains red. Layers of forests dyed red, a clear river, 100 barges vying for the current. Eagles soar in the sky, fishes swim in the shallow waters, all living creatures vie for freedom in the cold sky. Vast and sorrowful, I ask the boundless earth, who will rise and fall? If heaven had feelings, it would also grow old, the great Tao is merciless and fair. Every existence has a chance to ascend, it depends on how one grasps it, how one fights for it. In this world, no one is born to be a supporting character. No one. They will be eternal main characters. All living beings compete, survival of the fittest. Precisely because of the competition between the heroes of the world, the clash of strength, the contest of trump cards. That is why history is so profound and exciting, and why the world is so rich and wonderful. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan's chest relaxed, the bitterness, hatred, fear, joy, all turned into smoke and dispersed. His heart was clear, the determination of a demon caused his eyes to shine brightly. He started to think calmly. So I had been reborn to this point. According to the development of my previous life, I interrogated Wang Xiao about the correct path to Wu Mountain, but he did not tell me even in death. I had no choice but to kill him, and use beast strength placenta goo to devour his and Yun Luo Tian's aperture. Fang Yuan was silent, his expression was solemn as he recalled what was going to happen next. After that, I spent a lot of effort and said Spring Autumn Cicada to convince the land spirit. I also killed Killer Ghost Dr. Cho Jiu, Wu Shen Tong, and Zhang San San. And from Zhang San San's body, I unexpectedly obtained a slavery goo. Just as I was about to continue killing, something unexpected happened, and I had to save the situation. I killed Long Qing Tian, but because of the Jade Sky goo poison, I did not gain anything. After that, I refined goo, defended the hall, and Bai Ning Bing betrayed me. Fang Yuan's thoughts moved like lightning, recalling his previous life at lightning speed. His eyes squinted into a slit, and his hands unconsciously clenched into fists. The situation is critical. Standing at the height of rebirth, he could see the situation clearly, his negligence in his previous life became his vigilance in this life. Firstly, Bai Ning Bing already knew the general situation of the immortal goo refinement. She was secretly conspiring with Tai Ruanan, and Tai clan was already prepared. Maybe that Tai Bai Chi was already hiding in San Cha Mountain, waiting to appear at the crucial moment. The enemy is in the dark while I am out in the open, this is not good. Secondly, during the last few days of the goo refinement, Xiao Meng would arrive. There was also the unexpected Mo Wu Tian, who had reached rank 5 cultivation, and would also participate. In his previous life, Fang Yuan killed several demons, causing the demonic path to be without a leader. Chapter 405. Fixed star goo is like a noose around my neck. Although I have methods to get rid of it, I need a lot of time to prepare. To get rid of fixed star goo, Bai Ningbing would have to retrieve it personally. Or, I can chop off my left forearm. Fong Yuan had a strong impulse. Fixed star goo was hidden in Fong Yuan's left forearm. If Fong Yuan gave up on his left arm, the 4 old-timers of Tai clan would only be able to grab Fong Yuan's severed limb. But this way, Fong Yuan would lose his left arm. In the future, he would have to heal it and regrow it, creating something out of nothing. It would take a lot of effort. Not to mention the trouble in healing it. Once he cut off his left arm, it would be like alerting the enemy. Tai clan and Bai Ningbing would immediately understand that Fong Yuan had sensed something and would most likely attack. This way, Tai clan and Bai Ningbing would be added to the battle formation. To Fong Yuan, this situation was no doubt worse than his previous life. I cannot alert the enemy. I was lucky to be reborn. Compared to my previous life, my only advantage is that I know the development of the situation. If I beat them at their own game, I can use Tai clan and Bai Ningbing for the time being. Once I cut off my arm, not only would Tai Bai and the rest be pushed to the opposite side, the situation would also change and deviate from my previous life's development. My advantage of rebirth would be lost. But if he did not cut off his arm, how could he get out of this desperate situation and launch a counterattack? Fong Yuan thought carefully. All sorts of people, events, and factors flashed through his mind. Wang Xiao, Chou Jiu, Wu Shentong, Zhang San San, Long Qing Tian, Xiao Mang, Tai Ruanan, Bai Ningbing, Mo Wu Tian, Yen Jun, Feng Tianyu, Enslavement Goo, Jade Sky Goo Poison, Land Spirit, Bronze Hull, Immortal Essence, Fixed Star Goo, Second Aperture Goo, Undefeated 100 Battles Goo. Countless choices would give rise to countless possibilities. Countless possibilities would influence each other. Fong Yuan's mind moved rapidly. All sorts of inspiration collided like flint in the darkness. What could he do to protect himself and also protect the greatest benefits? He racked his brains. In just a short period of time, his ears were buzzing. Wait! Suddenly, Fong Yuan's body shook. Perhaps, if I take a step back, I'll be able to see the world. Should I be more far-sighted? An unimaginable thought formed in his mind. No, the risk is even greater if I do that. He shook his head and muttered to himself as he rejected this idea. But this idea. However, it was like an old tree that had taken root and could not be shaken off. If I succeed in doing this, then my gains will be even greater. Fong Yuan's eyes shone brightly. But in the next moment, he subconsciously shook his head. If there is a slight mistake in the calculation of this method, it will be useless. I will be consigned to eternal damnation, worse than falling into Tai Ruanan's hands. After all, the spring and autumn cicada has already been used once, and there is no possibility of it being reused in a short period of time. As he thought about it, Fong Yuan's gaze gradually deepened. Suddenly, he chuckled and said, "Since when have I, a great demon overlord of my generation, been so timid and overcautious? As long as there was a glimmer of hope, one should be brave enough to take action. As long as there were monstrous benefits, you should disregard your own safety. Riches are sought in danger, what stable victory, slowly accumulating. I want to reach heaven in one step. That's right, this is the plan. If I fail, I will die without a burial ground. If I succeed, I will be like a dragon rising to heaven. It will be even more beneficial to my future plans. He, ha ha ha, life is a blur. It is just a huge gamble. Little Beast King, don't be rash. Let's talk about it." Chapter 406. Chou Jiu was overwhelmed with shock, quickly concentrating and using all his strength to activate his soul. He held his breath and meditated, holding on to this yellow shadow. This yellow shadow was supported by Fong Yuan's soul power. But he was young, his soul foundation could not compare to the 100-year-old monster Chojiu. Enslaving Chojiu was not an easy task. But how could Fang Yuan not expect this? He had his own methods. Slap slap slap, bam bam bam. Stop, you dare to hit me. If you kick my face again, I will fight you. Fuck, you are still kicking, I will fight you to the death. Stop fighting, stop fighting. No, don't. Fang Yuan beat Chojiu until he rolled around. Chojiu could not use goo worms, but Fang Yuan could use strength path goo worms. Comparing strength, Chojiu was not Fang Yuan's match. Soon, Chojiu was beaten black and blue. He was distracted many times, causing the shadow to fuse into his body. Hold on, once it fuses completely, I will become his slave, never to rise again. Chojiu curled his body into a ball, letting Fang Yuan punch and kick him, an intense sense of danger causing his hair to stand. Just a trace of the yellow shadow shrouded his forehead, unable to fuse. Fang Yuan sneered, suddenly saying, "Tseng don't you want revenge? Chen Jiu abandoned you, and is living well with Shang Yanfei. You, how did you know?" Chojiu's guard fell, and the shadow completely entered his body. Chojiu's expression instantly changed, kneeling towards Fang Yuan. "Subordinate greets master." Fang Yuan laughed loudly. Success. This rank 5 slavery goo, of course he had to enslave a rank 5 goo master to fully utilize its value. Until now. Mo Wu Tian and Xiao Mang had yet to arrive. Tai Mu Bai, Wu Gui, Ku Mo and Wu Lan Shan were all killed by Fang Yuan. The remaining choices were Wu Mountain Lord Wang Xiao and Killer Ghost Dr. Chojiu. But how could Mount Wu be compared to the Gate of Life and Death? The Gate of Life and Death was a forbidden land comparable to the River of Time. Enslaving Chojiu was equivalent to grasping the clues to the Gate of Life and Death. Furthermore, Chojiu was one of the 4 great doctors of southern border, his influence even covered the righteous path, definitely much higher than Mo Wu Tian. The only imperfection was enslaving Chojiu would place a certain burden on Fang Yuan's soul, it would greatly affect his immortal goo refinement. Chojiu, back then, did you and Dr. Su Shou use the poison vow goo, swearing to love each other forever? Never leaving? Fang Yuan looked at Killer Ghost Doctor and asked a question. There is indeed such a thing. But master, how did you know? Chojiu, whose face was bruised and swollen, knelt on the ground and confessed. Since you have already used the poison vow goo, do you know Dr. Su Shou? How can I escape the restriction of the poison vow? Fang Yuan squinted. Poison vow goo is the replacement of mountain pledge goo. Chen Jiu does not have the ability to remove it. For that pretty boy Shang Yanfei, she took a huge risk and let the poison vow act up and kill herself. Without a host, the power of the poison vow would naturally disappear. Then, she would use healing methods to revive herself and get rid of the poison vow. Chojiu said this with a furious expression. He loved his senior sister dearly. But in the end, she fell out with him because of a pretty boy. She even risked her life to get rid of the poison vow. Fang Yuan heard this and was even more furious than him. He could not help but raise his leg and kick Chojiu. You scammer. He clearly remembered that in his previous life, Chojiu said this, we made a poison vow in front of the blessed land sea, to protect each other and never leave each other. But who could have thought that senior sister had a change of heart, going against the poison vow we made, injuring me and defecting with that scoundrel? What poison vow? It was clearly the poison vow goo. This Chojiu's words avoided the important points and focused on the trivial ones. He did not elaborate on some parts and whitewashed himself. If he had said the poison vow goo, Fang Yuan thought to himself, I might have been alerted that there was someone in Shang Clan City who could get rid of the poison vow goo's restriction, and thus be on guard against Bai Ningbing. But I should have thought of it. Chojiu talked about Shang Yanfei's appearance, saying the latter was only slightly better looking than him. How could he say such shameless words so naturally? No wonder he would omit the goo word from the poison vow goo. Fang Yuan looked at Chojiu in disdain. Talking about love, he actually used the poison vow Gu to restrict the other party. It could be seen that Chojio's heart was filled with darkness and inferiority. It was not strange for such a person to speak hypocritically. Fong Yuan had always been suspicious about how Bai Ningbing got rid of the poison vow. Even in his previous life, Bai Ningbing did not give him an answer. Now that Fong Yuan knew, it was this Dr. Su Shou who helped Bai Ningbing get rid of the poison vow. Alright, let bygones be bygones. Chojio, go to King Xian inheritance and bring me the undefeated 100 battles Gu. Fong Yuan calmed his emotions and instructed. I will do my best. Chojio respectfully replied. Chojio was a healing Gu master, not a refinement path master like Feng Tianyu. It was impossible for him to help Fong Yuan refine the second aperture Gu, but it was easy for him to take the undefeated 100 battles Gu. This was because the blessed land was declining, and not long after, Gu worms could be moved at will. Chojio only needed to charge and attack to obtain the second aperture Gu. At this point, Fong Yuan's massacre came to an end. He returned to the hall and continued refining Gu. Compared to his previous life, he had saved a lot of time since rebirth. Without the pressure from the spring-autumn cicada, he was much more relaxed. Originally, he only slept for an hour every day, refining Gu crazily and squeezing out his potential. Now, he could sleep for at least 6 hours every day, methodically. As the days passed, the blessed land became weaker and weaker. But his immortal essence consumption was not as severe as in his previous life. With his previous life's experience, Fong Yuan did not take many detours this time, and many steps were completed in one go, causing the land spirit to look at him in a different light. The abnormality of the three kings' inheritance attracted everyone's attention. As time passed, Che clan and Zhua clan came out in full force. Xiao Mang and Mo Wu Tian also appeared on San Cha Mountain. Finally, the 24th of October arrived. Master, I did not fail you. Chojio knelt on the ground, holding a Gu worm with both hands. He passed it to Fong Yuan. With little brother Mo Wu Tian helping us, these mere dogs are nothing to worry about. Chojio expressed a warm welcome towards Mo Wu Tian's arrival. Mo Wu Tian's frown deepened. He was used by Chojio right from the start. Never mind, I'll endure it for now, and put in some effort to rush into the hall. The group of demons moved majestically, but they did not go straight to the hall, but instead went through many twists and turns. Sir Chojio, time waits for no man, why don't we attack the root of the problem and kill our way in? Mo Wu Tian frowned, urging. Chojio chuckled, there is strength in numbers, there are still many people who have not joined us. If we absorb their strength, we will become even stronger. When the time comes, everyone will share less pressure and danger. Mo Wu Tian urged again, but Chojio chuckled and was very polite, but he did not relent. Mo Wu Tian was anxious, and tried many times, but Chojio persisted. This old man is rotten, he doesn't know how precious time is. Mo Wu Tian controlled his anger, and started to contact Hu Mei, Li Xian and the rest, egging them on, causing them to become more and more impatient. Chojio had no choice, he could not go against everyone's will, and could only lead the demons to the periphery of the fog. Mo Wu Tian observed for a while, and suggested that they could split into 3 groups, and so on and so forth. Chojio, however, said it was not appropriate, the fog was too thick, and they could not see the situation clearly. As a doctor, he had the heart of a parent, and could not bear for them to risk their lives like this. Mo Wu Tian stomped his feet in anger, and went to contact the others again, preaching about the beauty of the immortal treasure. The demon's emotions were surging, and Chojio went with the flow, asking Mo Wu Tian to be in charge of this matter, and choose the people to lead the charge. But there was one condition, the Gu master had to be willing, and could not be forced. The demons responded enthusiastically, and after Mo Wu Tian made arrangements, they moved out in 3 groups. Oh no, there are people attacking outside. While refining the Gu, the land spirit suddenly said. No worries, I expected this situation. Go and take charge of the battle outside, I will hold the fort for now, and wait for you to return. Fang Yuan said calmly. The land spirit split most of its attention, commanding the dog group, and repelling the demons like in his previous life, according to Fang Yuan's instructions. Mo Wu Tian was not resigned, and organized a second attack, but it was still a huge loss, and they returned in low spirits. Chou Jiao walked out at this time. Everyone knows my rules, for every person I save, I must kill. At this moment, I will save everyone first, and I hope everyone will fulfill their promise in the future. Saying so, he healed everyone. The demons shed tears of gratitude, and Chou Jiao's reputation rose sharply. More and more people distanced themselves from Mo Wu Tian, and gathered around Chou Jiao. Chou Jiao patted Mo Wu Tian's shoulder, and said kindly, "Brother Wu Tian, let's wait and see. I advised you not to advance too rashly. Now that so many of us have died, I feel sad." His voice was very loud, causing Mo Wu Tian's eyes to twitch in anger. This old man is sinister. If I break through the encirclement, it will be because of him. If I fail, he'll push all the blame onto me. I underestimated the dog formation. I thought it was a dead formation, but to think there was a Gu master manipulating it from behind the scenes. Such reaction speed and methods, he definitely has deep attainments in the enslavement path. Damn it, damn it. Mo Wu Tian gritted his teeth, but could do nothing. In his previous life, he could force the demons to sell their lives for him. But now that he had a rank 5 Gu master like Chou Jiao, he naturally could not be as unrestrained as he was in his previous life. Let's wait for a while, the righteous path will gather soon, we can discuss it again. After all, we only have one life. If we rush up and give the righteous path an advantage, that would not be good. Chou Jiao arranged. Lord Ghost Doctor is right. Lord Ghost Doctor is steady, caring for the lives of us small fries. A doctor has the heart of a parent. Lord Ghost Doctor is after all an old senior of our demonic path. Mo Wu Tian gritted his teeth, wishing he could kill Chou Jiao, that old fart. After delaying for a while, the righteous path Gu masters also gathered, led by Xiao Mang. They charged forward several times, but returned in defeat. Xiao Mang was thinking about the unopened King Bao inheritance, and was anxious, using his killer move again. Extreme Light Gu. Self-Will Gu. Bright Spear Gu. Killer move, Glory of my spear. A magnificent light spear that was 6 feet long and 6 feet wide landed on the hill. An intense explosion occurred, the wind blew, and after the piercing white light dissipated, the fog that shrouded the hill also dissipated. In the bronze hall, the magnificent dog group was displayed in front of everyone's eyes. The righteous and demonic experts saw this, feeling both agitated and cold. The immortal treasure was right in front of them, but the dog group was so huge, how could they rush up? Only the righteous and demonic path could work together. The knowledgeable people all thought of this point. Xiao Mang looked towards the demonic path, and Mo Wu Tian also looked towards the righteous path. The trend of working together was obvious, it was just a matter of which side would compromise first. Time passed second by second. Chou Jiao was unperturbed, sizing up the dog group. Xiao Mang's expression was solemn, and he closed his eyes to rest. He was the second clan leader of Xiao tribe, a famous figure of the righteous path. How could he lower his head to the demonic path first? If these words were to spread, it would be detrimental to his reputation. The second tremor is over, Ba Gui, my hidden pawn has taken effect, they will not attack for a while. Let's continue refining Gu. Fang Yuan summoned the land spirit. While the righteous and demonic paths were in a deadlock, Fang Yuan started refining Gu again. At this moment, the green gas and yellow light finally fused successfully. The green gas turned into green grass, growing in the air. The yellow light turned into flowers, falling down and decorating it. Fang Yuan took out a dagger, and cut his artery, spurting out his own blood essence. A large amount of blood essence poured over. The green gas and yellow light made a sizzling sound, and turned into a red cloud, like a raging blood sea. The blood water surged, but it only formed into a ball, floating in the air, and did not spread. After another round of fusion and evolution, the ball of smoke finally formed into a field, with scarlet red rice growing on it. Fong Yuan saw this and let out a breath of turbid air. However, good times did not last long. Ba Huang and Ing Ming, the two great dog emperors, came out and blocked the two's path like in the previous life. It is time. At the front lines, Tai Ruanan was bathed in blood. She stopped her charge and breathed heavily. Tai Clan's 4 old-timers were guarding her. Besides them, there was also Tai Baichi. We are only a few thousand steps away from the Bronze Hall. There are many dog beasts. Lord Tai Baichi will have to depend on you. Tai Ruanan said. He, I have been watching the show for so long, my heart is itching. Tai Baichi took off his hood and opened his third eye. Whoosh! He activated his goo worm and pushed with his palms, creating a black hole in the air in front of him. The black hole continued to rotate, as countless white apes jumped out. The white ape army surged out, forming a powerful vanguard that charged towards the Bronze Hall. Young master, you guys go ahead. I will block them here. Tai Baichi's tone was firm and powerful. Then we will have to rely on you. Immortal goo are important. For the clan, we need to capture Fong Yuan alive. Tai Ruanan gritted her teeth and waved her hand, leading the 4 old-timers to charge forward. With the white ape army's cover and sacrifice, Tai Ruanan successfully charged into the hall. Fong Yuan was still refining goo. He could not split himself. The land spirit wanted to make a move, but was stopped by Fong Yuan. Ba Gui, don't force yourself. You are commanding the dog group while using your immortal essence to assist me in refining goo. How can you be distracted? Bai Ning Bing, it is up to you now, block her for me. Bai Ning Bing snorted coldly, narrowing his eyes as he blocked Tai Ruanan. The two fought intensely. In the air in front of Fong Yuan, the clouds were boiling. In his previous life, at this time, Fong Yuan had already used third watch goo. But in this life, without Feng Tianyu's help, Fong Yuan's progress was very slow. He had only just thrown in that 500-year lifespan goo. Without the help of a refinement master like Feng Tianyu, it was very difficult for Fong Yuan to control the cloud smoke. The clouds boiled several times, causing Fong Yuan to almost fail several times, but he managed to salvage the situation by a hair's breadth. Behind him, Bai Ning Bing and Tai Ruanan fought intensely for a while before Tai Clan's 4 old-timers charged in and joined in the fight. Bai Ning Bing was no match. She was surrounded by danger as she shouted, Fang Zheng, I can't hold on much longer. How much longer do you have? The clouds finally fused with the lifespan goo, turning into a field of blood. The rice on the field was golden and full of fruits. It was the scene of 500 years is autumn. Fong Yuan's voice was also filled with nervousness. Hold on, I need a lot of time. If I die, you won't be able to live either. Bai Ning Bing cursed continuously. After a few rounds, she breathed roughly, I can't hold on anymore. He was getting closer to success, and he could not help but feel a trace of excitement. Then how do you want me to protect you? The land spirit asked. Fong Yuan chuckled and said meaningfully, Ba Gui, do you still remember the 3rd section of The Legends of Renzu's 2nd chapter? The land spirit was stunned. It could guess Fong Yuan's thoughts, but its tone was hesitant. You mean, no, there are still 2 conditions that cannot be fulfilled. First, you need the light of glory of the immemorial era. He. Fong Yuan heard this and could not help but laugh. He raised his hand and pointed at the top of the bronze wall, shouting, Look, the light is here. When he stood up, he had secretly instructed the land spirit and shared his vision with it, thus he could see the situation outside the hall clearly. After that, he talked to the Tai clansmen to stall for time and wait for a good opportunity. This was already the 3rd time Fong Yuan used Spring-Autumn Cicada. With the accumulated experience, he had a deeper understanding of rebirth. After rebirth, there was indeed a butterfly effect that could change some things beyond recognition. But there was also historical inertia. Many big events happened because of the accumulated conflicts, and lacked a fuse. Even if the original fuse was gone, there would be other new fuses. It was not something that could be changed by just one person's influence. Outside the hall, Xiao Mang was getting impatient from Ming Dog Emperor's pestering, and directly flew into the sky. Rank 4, Gather Light Goo. Rank 5, Extreme Light Goo. Rank 5, River Descending Goo. Killer Move, Torrential Light River. The torrential light river surged and surged, pouring into the blessed land. The intense light was dazzling, creating huge waves that illuminated the entire hill. Countless people squinted their eyes. Not good. Tai Ruanan and the rest were in the hall, and Tai Baichi saw this and quickly tried to block it, but the light river's momentum was already formed, and could only weaken a portion of it. The majestic light river was like a waterfall, crashing heavily on the bronze hall. A huge hole appeared on the ceiling of the hall, and the torrential light rushed down towards Fang Yuan. The light of glory of the immemorial era. The land spirit cried out in shock. Fang Yuan laughed heartily, activating his primeval essence and activating rank 4 Bone Wings Goo and rank 5 Golden Soup Goo. He had a pair of wide and long black wings on his back. The golden soup was like water, wrapping around his whole body and spreading to the black wings, dyeing his whole body in a dazzling golden color. What is he trying to do? Fang Yuan. Under the astonished gazes of Tai Ruanan, Bai Ningbing and the rest, Fang Yuan flapped his wings and flew towards the torrential light river. Bam! The continuous loud explosions and the strong impact made it extremely difficult for Fang Yuan to fly in the opposite direction. Chapter 410. The glory of the immemorial era shone on the cocoon. Absorbing the glory of the immemorial era, the cocoon was undergoing a mystical transformation. Fang Yuan's body shone with a golden radiance as he flew against the torrential light river. Facing the powerful killer move of a rank 5 Goo master, Gold Soup Goo's pure defense was gradually losing its effect. The golden defense was slowly being washed away by the light. Especially the bone wings, they were gradually being washed away by the torrential light river, revealing their original black color. In the majestic heavenly river of light, a thin figure was flying with difficulty against the enormous pressure. Such a miraculous scene attracted the attention of many Goo masters. The huge battlefield became silent. The land spirit was supporting Fang Yuan with all its strength, the dog beasts had lost their leader, and most of them were fleeing. The Goo masters also stopped in their tracks, raising their heads to take a look. They all had a similar question in their hearts: I have never seen this scene before, but why is it so familiar? I remember. Suddenly, someone shouted, this scene was recorded in the Legends of Renzu. No wonder it was so familiar. The Legends of Renzu was the #1 classic in the world, it was widely spread in the world, everyone was familiar with it. With this reminder, many people suddenly realized. That's right, the second chapter, third section of the Legends of Renzu has a relevant record. I remember too. To refine the immortal Goo fixed immortal travel, Verdant Great Sun flapped his wings and bathed in the light of glory, flying towards the sun. Everyone recalled, causing a burst of laughter. What's wrong with this person? Imitating Verdant Great Sun and disregarding his life? Is he also trying to refine the immortal Goo fixed immortal travel? How can this be? Does he have divine travel Goo? Fang Yuan of course had divine travel Goo. But divine travel Goo was not enough, it was recorded in the Legends of Renzu. Verdant Great Sun was worried that divine travel Goo would take advantage of his drunkenness and place him in danger. Divine travel Goo felt ashamed. It pointed to him, go to the sky first. In the azure heaven of the 9 heavens, there is a bamboo forest. In the bamboo forest, he plucked a piece of jade bamboo from the blue sky. Then go to the blue sky of the 9 heavens, and at night, collect the 8-sided diamond from the starlight fragments. Next, in the morning, fly to the sky and use the light of glory of the sun to turn me into fixed immortal travel goo. After I became that goo, then I won't bring you around when you're drunk anymore. Therefore, Feng Yuan still needed the jade bamboo in the blue sky and the star dust of the octagonal diamond in the blue sky. There was also the light of primordial glory. Did he? He didn't have it at first. However, after his rebirth, he killed Long Qing Tian. He obtained the jade sky goo. This goo was a rank 5 goo that originated from the immemorial era. It looked like a dark green bamboo trunk, palm-sized and hollow in the middle. It felt smooth like jade in the hand. It was the jade bamboo of the azure sky. The legends of Renzu described all sorts of goo. Immortal goo were described directly. For example, wisdom goo, strength goo, and so on. As for mortal goo, it was pointed out subtly, the description was very vague. Readers need to dig deep and study carefully. However, jade sky jade bamboo alone was not enough. He also needed the stardust of the octagonal diamond. Did he? Of course he didn't, but Bai Ningbing secretly planted it in him. Indeed, it was the fixed star goo. This goo was an immemorial star fragment, it was like a diamond. It had octagonal edges and was translucent. It was planted on Feng Yuan's left forearm. But it is an immortal goo, I need your help to activate it with immortal essence. Ba Gui, of course. There is still some immortal essence left in the bronze cauldron, where you want to go, you need to think about it in your mind. You'd better choose a safe place. Also, you have to pay attention that the image in your mind should be the same as the real place. It can't be too different. Of course I understand this. Ba Gui sighed, saying in a heavy tone, using fixed immortal travel, you will definitely be able to escape the encirclement. And without immortal essence, the blessed land will be destroyed immediately. Death is nothing much, to me, it is also a form of release. I only hope you can refine second aperture goo in the future, and not waste this opportunity. Before we part, do you have anything to say to me? Feng Yuan opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He flapped his tattered black wings and flew in the sky, looking down at his surroundings. The bronze hull with a huge hole, the battlefield with blood flowing everywhere, and the goo immortal blessed land in ruins, farewell. Bai Ningbing. Farewell, Tai Ruanan. Farewell, southern border. The land spirit did not know that Feng Yuan was taking a huge risk. But life was a huge gamble, if he did not take it now, when would he? If a man does not have the ambition to reach the clouds, he is born with an 8-foot body. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan could not help but feel a surge of emotions. Under everyone's gazes, his emotions surged. It turned into a poem. The heroes could only hear him reciting a long chant. Since ancient times, earth immortals pass with the wind, the 3 kings of the past return to their graves. Verdant's son dies regretfully, who is invincible. Stage a comeback and become king again. A dragonfish in the heavenly river, defying heaven and traveling alone in the world. Today, I will spread my wings, tomorrow I will become an immortal and whip the phoenix. After reciting, Feng Yuan laughed loudly. Everyone was stunned and speechless. Only the land spirit shouted, "Good ambition. I will send you on your way." Immortal essence was instilled into fixed immortal travel goo, jade light flashed as Feng Yuan disappeared from the sky. Only his clothes were left, falling from the sky like a kite with its string cut. He disappeared. He used fixed immortal travel, who knows where he went. Ah! Why is heaven and earth shaking? Everyone was dumbfounded. At this time, intense winds blew, mountains crumbled and the earth cracked. Heaven and earth collapsed. Holes formed one after another, connecting to the outside world. Damn it, escape. The blessed land is truly collapsing. Soon, the winds of assimilation will blow. If we don't escape now, we will die here, I don't want to. The crowd panicked and frantically escaped, the whole of Sancha Mountain was in chaos. Central Continent. Tian Ti Mountain. Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Dang Hun Mountain. Chapter 412. Facing Lei Tan's interrogation, He Fengyang smiled, but did not answer. Supreme Third Elder smiled instead. This old man understands Elder Fengyang's meaning. If we do not choose to protect this Feng Yuan, Hu Immortal Blessed Land will still be fought over by the 10 sections. But if we admit that Feng Yuan is one of Crane Gate's men, we can directly eliminate the other 9 competitors, and only our Crane Gate will fight for this blessed land. Lei Tan's expression changed slightly, his gaze flickered, and he did not continue to interrogate. At this time, He Fengyang stood up from his seat. He first cupped his fists towards the Third Supreme Elder who spoke for him. Third Supreme Elder is wise. Back then, it happened so suddenly, no one could have expected that a mortal would use fixed immortal travel immortal goo to teleport to the peak of Dang Hun Mountain. And directly snatch Hu Immortal Inheritance in front of everyone's eyes. Next, he continued, this Hu Immortal Inheritance is on Tian Ti Mountain. I'm sure everyone here knows that Tian Ti Mountain is the ladder to the Celestial Court. Even though it has been destroyed and abandoned for many years, it still represents the dignity of the Celestial Court. To some extent, attacking the inheritance of the Immortal Fox was the same as attacking the Stairway Mountain. Attacking Tian Ti Mountain is attacking the Celestial Court. Thus, even though there are many blessed lands on Tian Ti Mountain, no one has ever dared to attack them. This time, Hu Immortal Blessed Land is also waiting for the time to open, so the 10 of us work together to help Hu Immortal Land Spirit expand the entrance. This cannot be considered an attack. Even if we really attack Hu Immortal Blessed Land. The Blessed Land has a land spirit. Without at least 3 rank 6 Gu Immortals working together, we might not even be able to enter. And the center of the Blessed Land is protected by Dang Hun Mountain. Without 5 to 6 Gu Immortals working together, who would dare to boast about being able to reach the peak? Lei Tan, can you? Lei Tan snorted. He wanted to refute, but kept his mouth shut in the end. In the Blessed Land, the land spirit could freely mobilize all resources, and its battle strength could match Gu Immortals. Most importantly, the land spirit could suppress all rank 5 to rank 1 Gu worms. If a Gu Immortal wanted to attack a blessed land, their strongest weapon was Immortal Gu. Because blessed lands could not restrict Immortal Gu. But Immortal Gu were hard to find, many Gu Immortals did not even have one. Even if there was one, it might not be an offensive Gu. This was a classic case of weak offense and strong defense. If one wanted to forcefully attack a blessed land, they would often need several Gu Immortals to work together and create an advantage in numbers, before engaging in a battle of immortal essence consumption. The blessed land's immortal energy was completely depleted. The next step was to attack. But in fact, unless there were special circumstances, very few Gu Immortals would attack blessed lands. Because it was not worth it. Not only was celestial essence rare and hard to accumulate, but it was also because the blessed land had self-destructed. Once the defending side couldn't think it through. If he destroyed the blessed land, the winds of assimilation would blow. Attacking Feng Zhen would not be able to obtain any spoils of war. When Gu Immortals attacked blessed lands, in the end, they would not gain anything and instead suffer disastrous losses. Unless there was a deep hatred, no one would be willing to make such a losing deal. He Fengyang noticed that Lei Tan didn't say anything. He continued, that Feng Yuan ascended the mountain peak and obtained the inheritance, immediately ordering the land spirit to close the blessed land. Feng Yuan and Feng Zheng looked almost identical. The other 9 sects Gu Immortals reacted. Among Immortal Gu, most need Immortal Essence to activate. This fixed Immortal Travel Gu is no exception. This Feng Yuan has fixed Immortal Travel and the land spirit who Immortal can activate the Blessed Land's Immortal Essence, he can escape any time. We need to be extremely careful when dealing with him. Also, he is only a mortal, but he can possess an immortal goo. His background is not simple. He Fengyang nodded. Junior has also expected this. Earlier, I lied about Feng Yuan being our sect's disciple. It was to probe the other 9 sections. Now it seems that he is not backed by the 9 sects of Central Continent. Junior guesses that Feng Yuan comes from Southern Border. There is a high chance that he is backed by a super clan in Southern Border. But be it Wu clan, Shang clan, Tai clan, Yi clan, or others, they are all far away in Southern Border, unable to reach him. If he really enters Central Continent, his battle strength will be suppressed. Our Crane Gate is one of the 10 great sects of Central Continent. We have a high chance of winning against them. Once he said this, the elders nodded and discussed softly. Indeed. A strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. Central Continent is our Crane Gate's territory. If they really attack, humph. Even if our battle strength is not suppressed, our Crane Gate is stronger than any of the super clans of the 4 regions. Third Elder's frown eased slightly. Right now, I still have some doubts. Fixed immortal travel goo requires the user to have a deep memory of the terrain. He, Feng Yuan, is only a mortal, and seems to be far away in Southern Border. How could he know the scenery of Hu immortal blessed land? And how could he control the time so precisely? Could it be Hu immortal once made arrangements in Southern Border? Or is it the doing of the demonic path Gu immortals on Tian-Ti Mountain? He Fengyang bowed. Junior does not know about this. This matter is really strange. It was only a clue to a Blood Sea true inheritance. Back then, our sect members betrayed us and fled to Southern Border. Several years ago, Junior sent Master Tenchiru to Southern Border. He cleaned up the sect and took back the true inheritance. But Master Tenchiru failed, and instead, Feng Yuan seized the true inheritance and obtained Blood Skull Goo. This person is ruthless and ruthless. He actually slaughtered his own clansmen and used Blood Skull Goo to raise his aptitude. Master Tenchiru was not resigned to his failure, so he brought it back to Fengyang. He planned to retrieve it later. He Fengyang naturally would never have thought that a nameless, insignificant character would one day appear on stage in such a way that left him dumbfounded and tongue-tied. Moreover, he destroyed his grand plan and caused such huge trouble for him. This feeling was very strange. It was like a person walking on the road, and an ant suddenly jumped onto the person's nose, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Where did this ant come from? Extremely daring. A person could crush it with just 2 fingers. But the situation was special. He could not do anything to this person. He could only let this ant strut around for the time being. Why is it this Blood Sea inheritance again? Hearing He Fengyang's explanation, many elders frowned, feeling vexed. Blood Sea inheritance originated from the demonic path overlord Blood Sea ancestor. He killed people like flies, leaving behind a bad reputation for thousands of years. With the ability of a rank 7 Gu master, he actually set up hundreds of thousands of inheritance secret areas in Central Continent, Southern Border, Northern Plains, Western Desert and Eastern Sea. He laughed strangely before his death. Blood Path is not alone, leaving behind a legacy of venom for all eternity. And now, it was as he said, who knew how many mortals had benefited from this? Blood Sea inheritance was already publicly recognized as the most widespread and most numerous inheritance in the world. There was no other. Countless righteous path members had headaches because of this. That Shui too was just a butcher. Didn't he obtain Blood Sea inheritance and become a famous demonic cultivator in Central Continent? Back then, Myriad Dragon Doc Song Zi Xing obtained one of Blood Sea's true inheritances and betrayed the sect. Even our 10 great sects were humiliated because of this. Now, he is already a rank 7 Gu immortal, and is called Blood Dragon. Myriad Dragon Doc sent 8 Gu immortals to kill this traitor and wash away their humiliation, 5 rank 6 and 3 rank 7 Gu immortals. In the end, he killed 4, crippled 3 and forced 1 to retreat. It is said that Blood Sea has 9 true inheritances. They are Blood Skull Gu, Blood Handprint Gu, Blood Chi Gu, Blood Sweat Gu, Meridian Blood Gu, Blood Shadow Gu, Blood Battle Gu, as well as the ancient desolate beast violent blood dragon bat and the rank 6 immortal goo blood deity. It can be said that he has great success in blood path. This means that 4 blood sea true inheritances have already appeared in the world. 1 blood skull goo is in Feng Yuan's hands. 1 blood handprint goo is in Southern Borders Shang clan leader's hands. And 1 violent blood dragon bat is in Song Zixing's hands. It is said that Shang clan leader has already obtained the 2nd blood sea true inheritance. That is a rumor, it has not been verified, there is no proof. The elders whispered to each other, discussing in low voices. Alright, let's not talk about the blood sea true inheritance. After searching for so many years, it is like searching for a needle in a haystack, all kinds of rumors are increasing day by day. My ears are getting calluses from hearing them. First Supreme Elder waved his hand, immediately stopping the discussions. He turned his gaze towards He Fengyang. Elder Fengyang, since this matter was started by you, you will be responsible for it till the end. Seize the blessed land and make a contribution, the sect will not be stingy with your rewards. Junior understands. He Fengyang accepted the order with a smile. Seeing He Fengyang land in such a good position, Lei Tan wanted to stop him, but since First Supreme Elder had spoken, he could only feel resentment in his heart. But next, First Supreme Elder said, since you are in charge, then Elder Fengyang, hand over my own Wei Gu. Feng Jioga has sent a letter asking for an immortal Gu. You are the person in charge of this matter, settle it for me. Lei Tan was immediately overjoyed. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.